hastu she awe aqdatli tunach yakanate. The ancient ones, the eternal ones, their blood is running through my veins. It's running through your veins. You have it in you. I love that.
Sealaska Corporation was conceived in the early 70s, and by the late 70s, the very early 80s, we had come to a point that we had to reflect on where we were going. And the leadership of Sealaska Corporation wanted direction from the elders and the community to ask just that. How are we doing? What should we be doing? What's important? What are our priorities? It's my understanding that the Elders Conference was really to talk about the social needs of our people, health, housing, education. And the elders seized that moment to really give words to their vision of their expectation of Sealaska Corporation. And so what was really a very good question, asking what are your expectations and how can we measure our success in that, became something greater and more poignant. They articulated their concern. They saw that our traditions and our culture and our language were ebbing away. They had a sense that we were losing who we are. They had worked so hard for us to earn our citizenship, to earn rights to go to public school, to live in any neighborhood within that community. And we had to become, as we were charged, much like our neighbors next door who were non-native. There was a great sense of loss. They didn't want their children walking around with books under their arm to teach them who they are. They wanted their children to know who they are, and with that knowledge of their relationship to their clan and to their village, to their community, would bring about a responsibility that would continue who we are as a people.
We want to address the number one issue that our grandchildren will face, the health of our oceans, climate change. It will be the greatest issue that we have to address, but they will be the ones really addressing it in the future as the effects of climate change grow. And so to put that forward as our vision, it completely ties to their words of because we cherish you. Because we cherish our grandchildren, we're going to help them address the greatest issue they will face in their lifetime. And we'll do it today to benefit them in the future.
Our investment in our culture and our young people, it's truly an investment that will have a return. That return might not come in this fiscal year, but that return will come back exponentially if you do it with integrity and truly believing in it and maintaining it. It's an overwhelming obligation, but it's also empowering. We've got no shortage of energy. We've got no shortage of knowledge. The thing we just need to refine and hone is our collective will to focus on the good things we want to accomplish together and channel that into another because we cherish you moment right now. Good afternoon. My Tlingit name is Kochgu. I'm a brown bear from Yakutat and child of the Quashkakwan. Welcome to Sealaska's annual meeting. I'm going to start by not really diving into a speech right off the bat here, but as we do at many of our gatherings, directing our attention and our respect to our veterans here in Southeast and in Juneau in particular. Our veterans are always with us, and we're forever thankful for their service. Today, I'm going to direct our attention virtually, and in the room, a few of us here, to Val Cooley, veteran from the Army, and Richard Willard Jr., a veteran from our Navy. And we also have, as usual, our leader of the Southeast Veterans, Ozzie Shakely, in the room. And they're going to post the colors. We thank our honor guard. We thank our veterans for their service. And especially in trying times like right now that we're facing, we know that we're looking to them for protection and hope and inspiration. So we'll start with the posting of the colors.
And salute. 2. Lift, please. How about a virtual round of applause for our veterans? We know that our Native people serve at a higher rate than anywhere in the country, and we're forever thankful, and we'll continue to do our best to do right by our military folks and our veterans, especially the ones who are able to make it home. Next, and this is a powerful thing that we're going to do through our video channels, and I know that all of you are largely attending that way. There's a handful in the room, but it's been amazing for me to witness David Katzik at work with among our people over the years, on our main stages, in our classrooms, out on the land, and just everywhere. But this year in particular, he's breaking the internet with us and streaming live. And when we're going to direct our attention for an opening prayer to David Katzik, Kingisti. The floor is yours. The floor is yours.
Ha katositin, ya ha anitlain, ha yukatangi, ha kustigi, ha kunugu, wa etrawe yesli haji, yes, ya on plain, yesli haji, yes, adehai sikhani, yes. Atrawe gonna cheese ye diatuka, kaye awa hatunda tani, yati ya yagi. Woods in Hawes T. Awa, Woods in Hawes T. Awa Konoch, Hutlatsin, Hoxati Haji, Atrawa Yikosid Wutua at Yayiki, the Kian Kawu, Ikatu Woods, Kosachantin, Tosla Antin, Gonachisha, Ho, yeah. Our most highest power, we have come to you today, because you have cherished us. You gave us the land that we have. Because you cherished us, you gave us the names that we have. Because you cherished us, You gave us the families that we came from. And because you cherished us, you provided everything that we needed as human beings. And because you cherished us, your desire is that we would be one even as we were at the very beginning. Because being one, Wuch'in, is very powerful. Ye'aweh Gunashisha Oho Ye'aweh Patan Kakashi Ye'aweh. Thank you.
Glashish, Kingesti, Ichsachan. We love you and appreciate you and cherish you. Today, for this 2020 annual meeting for Sealaska, we were scheduled to be in Angoon. And as all of you know, a lot of our travel plans have changed dramatically over the last few months. And we are adjusting and doing things virtually. But we did want to take the moment while we're here in hopes and a shout out to the folks of Angoon who were ready and willing to host us. And also, though, understanding very powerfully the reason why we didn't go to Angoon right now. And it's this pandemic. We've weathered these storms before, but it's our most vulnerable people that we've always cherished, and we didn't want to risk bringing this infection, this pandemic, into any of our villages. So we are thankful they're able to connect virtually. Hoots Nuwu, Angoon is the fortress of the brown bears. We've got, and we'll do board introductions in a minute, but we're going to acknowledge some of the current and former directors who have come from Angoon. Cyril George Sr. served on the board at Sealaska in the early years, and we're very thankful for Cyril and his life of work. Senator Kukesh should be streaming from Angoon right now. He's currently on the board. Jody Mitchell is our vice chair. She serves on the board currently, and she's from Angoon. Barbara Cadiente Nelson, another Tequidi brown bear, is from Angoon. And of course, Dr. Sobolov served on the board and is from Angoon. And Ross Sobolov also came from Angoon. Those are former directors that came from Angoon. So we appreciate Angoon. We are sorry that we're not able to be there today, but we know that you understand, and we will visit and hug again very soon, as soon as we can. So that brings us to today, though. Today we are in the capital city. We are in the Walter Sobolov building. This room is known as Shuka Hit, and a lot of you have been in here, and many of you now are getting used to seeing it on your computers and on your gadgets. And this building was constructed in the heart of the capital city under the leadership of Sealaska Heritage Institute. And we're thankful to have this beautiful facility here in downtown Juneau. With that, we're going to turn the computer systems over to our leadership across the region and in town here to offer a few opening comments. As you know, moments like these are leadership opportunities to step up and do the right thing, knowing that you're making decisions and you don't know what's coming around the corner. And you just got to do what's right in the moment. And folks have to have trust and believe in the leadership that's happening. And as I look over the list of leaders that are going to speak in the next few minutes here, I visited with all of them over the years. If I don't know them all, super closely, I actually do know quite a few of them. I'm proud and impressed with our leaders who are doing this tough work right now and adjusting in these virtual times. And I encourage them to continue to connect with each other even more after this meeting. And knowing we've got a long road ahead of us here until we get out of this. First on the list is our precious President Richard Peterson, the head of Clinton-Haida Central Council. And I know they've been doing great work in the pandemic and are actually very comfortable out in virtual world here. So we're always looking to him for guidance and comfort, but especially leadership in this moment. So thank you, President Peterson, for joining us today.
Thank you, Joe, and thank you for the opportunity to be here and to address our shareholders. It's an honor. My Tlingit name is Shakya Ish. I'm Kagwantan from the Eagle's Nest House. Grew up in the village of Kasan. It's an honor to be here, as I said, and I want to commend Sealaska. It's not lost on me that they're helping move our culture into this next generation of technology with this pandemic. And pandemics are nothing new to our people. And so I want to thank Sealaska and the other corporations and tribes that are working so hard right now to assure the safety of our communities, of our people. I know we couldn't be in Angoon today because of it. And I want to echo our chairman, Joe Nelson's words that it's because we love you that we're not there. And so we're doing this virtually. This is new and exciting. I just wanted to take a moment and recognize that Sealaska has been a tremendous partner, especially in the last few years. We've been working on a program called Being Good Relatives, and we're trying to bridge that gap between the corporations and the tribes. And I think working together is really what's going to move our people forward. And I want to thank the leadership at Sealaska for getting behind that and being a tremendous partner. We've been hosting dialogues and meetings in the region hosted by First Alaskans Institute, and trying to get our tribes and our corporations in that same room and putting the hard topics on the table and working together. And I think we're seeing great success there. I also want to thank Sealaska. This pandemic happened and you guys very swiftly moved to put $1 million towards being a solution and part of the solution. And so I want to thank you on behalf of our communities, on behalf of Tlingit and Haida for that effort. And lastly, when we talk about our culture, Sealaska's success, their financial success, they're able to put their money where their mouth is, and they're doing that right now. And they've put money towards our languages, and I want to commend them for doing that. I want to say Gunuk Chish, Hawa, and Gochum Nusum for taking those steps. I wish you all a successful meeting, everybody in our communities and those watching, to be well and be safe. Thank you.
Gunuk Chish, President Peterson. It's always fun to see you in person or even on the video screen. With Tlingit and Haida and Sealaska, we know that you are us and we are you, and we really are stronger together when we're operating together. And under President Peterson's leadership, I think a lot of us have a lot to be excited about. Moving to our mayor of our capital city, we are happy to see you virtually here. Sorry we're not able to do this in person, but I know you're racking up the hours on these video conferences and you're a pro at it now. We want to thank you for your service. We know it's definitely not normal to be doing things the way we are in our capital city, but we do know that you are stepping up in a very interesting time. Mayor Beth Weldon, the floor is yours.
Thank you for those kind words, and thank you for the honor to speak with you today. I want to thank each of you for joining us for today's 47th annual Sealaska shareholders meeting. And instead of welcoming you to Jino, I welcome you to sit back and enjoy your virtual meeting. I imagine this meeting is unlike any other annual meeting you've ever had. Many of us, as stated, have become quite accustomed to meetings conducted via Zoom during the last couple of months of the COVID-19 pandemic. But for some shareholders, This will be a brand new experience. I hope that you enjoy it and that technology struggles are few and far between. I understand that Sealaska has more than 22,600 shareholders scattered all over the U.S. and the world. I hope that this virtual meeting allows many shareholders to participate, each from their own corner of the globe. The theme for this year's meeting is Because We Cherish You. These are words that were spoken by the late Elder Charlie Joseph nearly 40 years ago, and they certainly hold even more relevance in today's world. We should all cherish each other a little more during these difficult times. In 1980, 40 Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian elders gathered to discuss the importance of preserving their culture to benefit future generations. Because We Cherish You laid out their vision for maintaining their way of life and passing it on to their children and grandchildren and more generations to come. Since then, Sealaska has taken on a shared responsibility of protecting and strengthening the collective wisdom of the elders. Sealaska works to achieve this goal every day by its actions that positively impact shareholders, the community, and the corporation. Sealaska is committed to perpetuating Native culture, revitalizing languages, and making decisions that will lead to successful future generations. Thank you for joining us today as we honor these words and further this commitment that started so many years ago. I wish you a productive meeting this afternoon. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak.
Balachish. Thank you, Mayor Weldon. Thank you for your service, and feel free to reach out if you ever need help. When President Peterson mentions being good relatives, some of us are, we're born that way and we're just connected to that strongly. But as Native people, we know that we've got a lot of non-Native relatives that we incorporate in, and we don't make that differentiation necessarily. And a lot of our doings, and what is powerful to see happening across the country a little more frequently, are the land acknowledgements. And I didn't want to start the land acknowledgement right out of the gates, because people are often still getting settled in and they miss it. So I think this right now is the time to do the land acknowledgement, and it's the people of the Ak and Taku Kwan that the capital city is sitting on here, and we are forever thankful and indebted to all those that have gone before, but especially the leadership of the Douglas Indian Association, of the local clans, who've been great and powerful hosts. I had a career at the university here, and they're very well connected there and elsewhere. And I know sometimes there are a lot of things happening, and you can't be everywhere, but that's especially why I want to thank the Douglas Indian Association for right now for making time to be with us here. DIA is the sovereign tribe in Juneau, and we're seeing a young face that you're going to hear from in just a moment, which is especially exciting to see. But their president is longtime president and leader, Clarence, some know him as Butch, some know as Taguch Leidy. We want to thank him for his leadership of the Douglas Indian Association. He's a longtime fisherman in town. We know it's fishing season right now. And I'm actually, I don't hold it against the fishermen for being out on the water right now. I wish I was there with you. But with that, Kevin, I believe, is the vice president of the Douglas Indian Association, and he's been stepping up and doing a great job in the community here, and we're happy to see you here in this capacity. Kevin, Mr. Allen, the floor is yours.
Good ashish, Mr. Nelson, and hello, Sealaska shareholders. My name is Kevin Allen. My Tlingit name is Tikwa, and I am Taku Kwan, a Taku Kwan Young Yedi, and a grandchild of the Akwan. And I want to thank Sealaska for this moment that DI has to share some words. I mean, we are currently facing challenges, and these challenges are shaking us at our very cores. They are affecting our way of life. And at DIA, we've had this kind of event occur to us, a very traumatic event And in times like these, it makes us recount that event. But between understanding a racial injustice like the burning of the villages, and also withstanding a pandemic right now, which we are all facing, it seems like we're a very strong rock in a hard place. And I think through the cultivation of our language and culture and cherishing things that make us strong in the first place, we will endeavor like our ancestor have for generations. And I mean, again, we would just like to thank Sealaska for this moment we got to share with all of you. And we just hope all of you are staying safe. And also staying strong through these times. So thank you. Good sheesh.
Good sheesh, Kevin. Kevin, I also want to thank for his service on the local school board here in Juneau. He's been a key player in helping get a first, really in the state of Alaska, an indigenous language policy adopted by a school district. And Kevin's been a champion there for our people, and the impact there is going to ripple in a positive way. And speaking of impact and ripple effects, one that we are going to close the leadership introductions on and with are one that we really do and are always going to be forever indebted to. If it wasn't for the leadership of the Alaska Native Sisterhood and the Alaska Native Brotherhood for the last more than 100 years, we wouldn't be here. And that's just a fact. And today is exciting to have another unprecedented moment. Not that just we're doing this virtually, but that both of our presidents of both organizations happen to be female. And I think they're in the queue to stream live. And a lot of you know Grand President Paulette Marino, the head of the Alaska Native Sisterhood. She's been active for her entire career, and I've run into her very frequently. And it's always, you know you're going to get a moment of passion, a moment of truth, and a moment of inspiration when you cross paths with President of our Grand President Marino. So thank you, Grand President Marino. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Pline di ayahat, yakst hit, kagwantan, yadi. My Tlingit name is Shkunyek. My English name is Paulette M. Marino. On behalf of the Alaska Native Sisterhood, Office of the Grand President, I would like to thank Sealaska's CEO, Anthony Malott, Chairman, Mr. Nelson, Board of Directors, and shareholders for this opportunity to invite your grandparents' organization at this time forward. Thank you, David, for your kind and very spiritual prayer. A special thank you to our veterans, President Peterson and President Allen, for your words of encouragement. I would like to join our A&B Grand Emeritus, Richard Jackson, our A&S Grand Emeritus, Mary Jones, A&B Grand President Gerko, Executive Committee and local camp officers in welcoming all of our shareholders to this annual meeting of Sealaska. Thank you, Sealaska, for supporting your grandmothers and your grandparents. Thank you at this time for your ongoing support to our organization, and a special thank you on behalf of all of the over 22 A&S and A&B local camps and their leadership for your recent help during this unprecedented time in our modern society. However, at this time, we would also like, on behalf of Alaska Native Sisterhood, to offer our heartfelt condolences to the Alaska Native Brotherhood, to Sealaska, the family of, and the community for the recent loss of our A&B Honorary Executive Member, Byron Malott. Our thoughts and our prayers are now and always will be with you for his leadership. This is a time that we as a people are experiencing hardships, such as our ancestors have. And it is with their spiritual guidance, their love and support, and their inspiration that we will prevail and we will come forward as a people. May your families be safe and our Heavenly Father be of comfort to you. Part of the preamblum of the Alaska Native Brotherhood and the Alaska Native Sisterhood states, we are here to oppose, to discourage, and overcome the narrow injustices of race prejudice, to commemorate the fine qualities of Native races in North America. There are many things that ANS and A&B stand for. At this time, please join the Alaska Native Sisterhood and the Alaska Native Brotherhood on some very recent news. This is the Elizabeth Paratovich $1 coin. And I just got a press release from the US Mint that because of the advocacy of ANS and A&B and the 4-H, which is the children in Alaska, it has passed that these coins will now be available not only for special collection, but 500,000 will be available to financial institutions in Alaska. As we stand together at this time to overcome things that are very difficult for us, I hope that as you hold an Elizabeth Paratovich coin in your hand, you know that we do have symbols of power, symbols of leadership, symbols of humbleness, humility, and kindness. So at this time, I would like to announce that with a celebratory spirit, and I would like to have this as a reminder of the vision, not only of ANS and A&B, but of each one of us in our communities. I would like to say God bless you, and I would like to welcome you also to the Sealaska meeting. We hope we have a wonderful gathering, and it has been a pleasure to work with the Alaska Native Brotherhood and the Alaska Native Sisterhood. Thank you. Ganesh Chish.
Ganesh Chish, Grand President Paulette, that's exciting news. And thank you for your leadership. This truly is memorable and historic, and there are things to celebrate. We know that Elizabeth Paratovich was somebody that we really do need to actually raise up in a much more meaningful way, and you're doing your part. I walked down here, I walked past the Capitol building and I saw that guy they call him Seward or something like that, and that statue there. I think we can get to work if we all start working together and do a better job of remembering the ones who are the true champions and still fighting for social justice to keep us all focused on our history, but also a positive future. And on that note, our next speaker and next welcome is from the Alaska Native Brotherhood. And this one, made me excited when I first heard about this. It's been over a year ago now, I think. That Grand President Heather Gurko stepped into the role, and we've had some good conversations in her role as Grand President. And we are very thankful for her service, but we're also acknowledging this moment of I guess I'd say change in a healthy way, and knowing that you're a first and probably not the last female who's going to head up this organization. You are helping us think differently. You're helping us approach the world differently, and it's that kind of thinking that really is going to help us get through crazy times like we're in right now. So thank you for joining us today. The floor is yours, Grand President Heather Gurko.
Chish. A&B Grand President Emeritus Richard Jackson, ANS Grand President Emeritus Mary Jones, ANS Grand President Paulette Marino, A&B Executive Committee, ANS Executive Committee, A&B Grand Officers, ANS Grand Officers, AMB and ANS local camp members, Sealaska Board Chair Joe Nelson, Sealaska Directors, Sealaska CEO Anthony Malott, Sealaska shareholders, elders, veterans, and honored guests. Hello, my Tlingit name is Shahak A, and my English name is Heather Gurko. I am honored to serve as the first woman to be the Grand President of the Alaska Native Brotherhood. I'm Tlingit on my mother's side and Dutch European on my father's side. I'm Raven Duckdane Tan of the Freshwater Sockeye House from Hoona, Alaska. I come to you today from where I live in Portland, Oregon, on the land of the Grand Ronde. And the Grand Ronde makes up over 30 tribes collectively who have these lands as their ancestral homelands. And I want to thank the Grand Ronde people for allowing me to live here and to serve here and lift up the voices of Indigenous people. Ganachish to the Sealaska Board Chair Joe Nelson and the Sealaska Directors, and Sealaska CEO Anthony Malott for inviting us to be with you today. Sealaska is one of the AMB and ANS's grandchild organizations, and we couldn't be more proud of the ongoing work that you do to lift up Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian people. I would also like to extend condolences to the Malott family on behalf of the Alaska Native Brotherhood on the passing of our honorary AMB Executive Committee member, Byron Malott. Additionally, during these unprecedented times, I'd like to share with you all a message of hope and solidarity. The AMB and the ANS were founded 108 years ago, and our founding mothers and fathers had a vision of world equality and peace, which we continue to advocate for today. Please know our work from the local AMB and ANS camp level to the Grand Camp level. We are all committed to lifting your voices and standing up for what is right for all communities of color. As we are all faced with this global pandemic, the AMB Executive Committee will be deciding on the best way to uphold the voices of our people. Knowing in-person convention may not be possible, we are exploring options with local camp members tomorrow. If you're a local AMB or ANS camp member, please make sure your local camp membership is on the conference call tomorrow at 3 p.m., where we will be discussing how we will continue the business this year. We have very important business, such as resolutions, elections, and our budget. If you don't know how to reach us, just go to the website, the AMB ANS Grand Camp. Once again, Ganachish Sealaska for your continued efforts to honor the voices of our ancestors while lifting up the voices of our future. Because we cherish you, please be safe, please be well, and I wish you all on behalf of the AMB Grand Camp a successful meeting today. Ganachish.
Ganachish. Grand President Gurko, we appreciate you. We're holding you up. We know we are going to continue to recognize the good work of the Alaska Native Brotherhood, and we have a lot of confidence in your work and leadership and appreciate you. Uh-oh. Hello.
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 Hello. This is Susie. I'm in Canada.
Hey, Grandma Susie.
I'm not allowed to cross the border.
What border?
I know. We got no more borders now. We're virtual. So we're going back to normal. Amen. Hello, everybody. Hello, Sealaska, my relatives. I miss you all. I just want to thank you and invite me to a meeting. I want to come in for a question. I want to know if it's too late.
Grandma Susie, yes. You're just on time.
Yeah, I think I got 4 hours. I got about 1,200 people I got to campaign to. But I got to tell you, I'm real traditional. You can see all the furs behind me.
Yeah.
I got that. And if I get elected, I promise I'll get you all from Alaska 1 bucket of chicken. I know you don't got that kind over there. And yeah, I miss you guys. We miss celebration over here. We really were looking forward to coming over, but that's okay. We can wait a year. And, oh, pretty boy Morgan, I see you on there. You've been trying to invite me to this meeting. How long?
Yeah, you Zoom bombed us. I didn't expect this, Ground Susie.
Well, I sure like your seal vest.
Thank you. It's from Yakutat.
You're gonna wear it on our date?
Yeah, I'll bring my best for you. You know that.
Okay, you got a Sealaska credit card?
No, I don't. No.
They
No.
don't trust you?
Yeah, I'm earning their trust.
Okay. So I got your vote?
Yes.
Okay. I'll vote for you too.
Good. Gonna sheesh, Ground Susie.
I just want to say, come always got to be, be ready for anything. And the reason I'm so upset the border is closed is look. It's empty. Come on. My sailor boy's empty. Open that border, please, at least so we can get some grub, or mail me some, please. Other thing is, oh, my jars are empty. Guys, I need some fish. I have lake fish all the time. I need some salmon. Yeah. Yes, we miss you guys, and we're thinking about you. We can't wait when we can visit each other again, and when we can have a snicks again. I get tired of just snick myself. And I want to say to my friend David, I'm sure happy to see you. A beautiful prayer, Gunashish. And I know you were a director before, and I appreciate you so much for what you do for our people. But you said no borders, that's right. It was not our borders at all. Anyways, it's good to be here. I hope you have a good meeting. Everybody, good luck, and a vote for Susie. Eksehan, Igakwan.
Juan, Gunashish. Me too, Sakhan. Grandma Susie, that was awesome. If you're gonna get Zoom bombed, it might as well be by Grandma Susie. And yes, we are not happy about those empty jars and that empty box you had, but we'll try to sneak somebody across the border here. So thank you, and we love you. We're gonna keep moving along here. We are at our annual shareholder meeting of Sealaska. We're doing it virtually for the first time. A couple of us are in the room. The rest of us are connecting by our internet connections. Most everybody should have video connections. I am going to step aside and let the directors in the room introduce themselves, and then we'll do a quick introduction of all the directors that are on the video.
Good afternoon, shareholders. Singit kenach stektin yukhatuasak. Angun kwan, hutsnu kwan, deshitan, yekhet dach ayachat. Norwegian yadi ayachat. Wasanedi dachkan ayachat. My name is Jody Mitchell, and I serve as the vice chair, and I welcome you all, and I'm very grateful to have this meeting today, even though it's done virtually. It's nice to be able to share all of our excellent results with the shareholders. And with that, I will step aside for the next director. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Welcome, shareholders. It's really awesome to be here with all of you, to find a way to gather again. I'm still feeling the words of the late Byron Malott, who said it's important that we gather again, and here we are. We wish that we had been able to go to your community and visit you face to face, and to have coffee and to hear your concerns, and to know that we're still connected, to know that we're still one with you. First, it's important and it's appropriate that I acknowledge my husband Norval Nelson and his people, the Anungan, the Aleut, and the Tlinedi, as well as my father, Andres Cadiente Sr., and his people, the Ilocano and the Tlinedi of Angun Kwan. When we as a traditional people acknowledge our opposites, we do so knowing that they have a history. They have a history of occupying and settling this place, a history full of tumult and challenges, much like it was said, pandemics, epidemics, and they survived. And so when we stand up to acknowledge our opposites as a way of introducing ourselves, we're saying that we know you, we see you, we remember you, that we're resilient people as a whole. And if I could just squeeze in that, why this means so much to me. My mother, Irene Cadiente, was born in Killisnoo in 1927, shortly after Killisnoo burned down, and she moved to Angoon. And she was raised in the Tlinedi house, her father's house, the Dog Salmon house in Angoon. And when her father died, her grandfather remained in the tribal house and raised her until her life was interrupted by the missionaries, and she went to school in Skagway. And so when I thank and acknowledge my father's people, they are my mother's people. And I am witness, as my siblings, that that tie, that connection is so important. So again, when you hear us acknowledge our opposites, it's because we know your history and we stand as one with you to witness that you have a place here, and it's certainly right here in our hearts. I am a Te Koedi, brown bear of Ha'ani. My uncles, Peter Jack and Frank Jack, and the great Olaf Abraham of Yakutat, reminded us that the Te Koedi are one. No matter where we're at, we're one. So I'm Te Koedi of Ha'ani. My tribal house is in Angoon, the Shanakit Hootsit. And so with that, welcome. I hope you stay with us. And I'm just excited about what we're going to share today. Ganesh Chish.
Chish, Barbara, and Jody. Our other directors are joining by video conference, and I will announce just your first or last name, and we'll do just brief introductions, making our way around. And I'm going to work because I can't see the screen as well over there, all of it, but I'm going to work on the list here. And we'll start off with Director Beasley. Director Beasley is holding up a sign. I can't read either. We can't hear him. We've had a microphone issue on Director Beasley's system here on occasion. Was that you now? No? We'll come back around and see if we can try again. Okay, well, we'll go to Director Barbara Blake.
Can you hear me now? Adala is, Atlant is, Asli Gurunai Lagam, Francis Demert Peel, Dinanu Ejin, Sandra Demert, DL, Ujin, Wathal Gira Kinudigang, Barbara Blake Atsatai, Kinudik. Yeah. Good people, it's an honor to be with you today. My grandmother was Frances Demert Peel. My mother is Sandra Demert. I am Raven from the Shark House from Heidelberg. It's an honor to be with all of you today. I want to acknowledge I am the granddaughter of Slay AD from Coak and also the daughter of Nelchina, who are the Otna people to be with everyone. How's Kingston?
Goodness, sheesh, Barbara. We're having bandwidth issues there as well. Apologies for that, Barbara Blake. We appreciate you being here. Well, there we go. Next one. We do have next in line Director Sid Edenshaw. It's good to see you.
Hello, welcome shareholders. My name is Sid Edenshaw from Heidelberg, Alaska. I'd like to thank you for attending the meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you, Sid. Next, we're going to go to Director Hollingstad.
Good afternoon, shareholders. Takla yuhat dosalt. Ye chayahat. Takatentan nachat seti. Sakhwedi yadi. Norwegian yadi ayahat. I'm Nicole Hollingstad. I am from Petersburg. So quick shout out to all of those shareholders in Petersburg who are watching the stream. Hope you're enjoying yourselves and that we have a great informative meeting. Thank you for being here.
Thank you, Nicole. Director Howard.
Hello, shareholders. My name is Morgan Howard, originally from Yakutat in Kodiak. I currently live in Kirkland, Washington with my family of 5. And we were asked to keep our introductions brief, so I'll just finish by saying I'm really glad that you all decided to tune in today. I'm really excited for you to hear the business report and see how Sealaska is progressing. As Sealaska shareholders, I really think our future is bright. Thank
you, Morgan. Next, we'll go to Senator Kukish.
I'm having all kinds of troubles with that. Can you hear me? Yes. Joe? Can you hear me, Joe?
Yes, go ahead, Albert.
Yeah.
Hello?
We can hear you.
Oh, good. I'm calling you from Angoon, Alaska. To those of you who are in the audience, thank you so much for tuning in. This is an unusual time, unusual place for us to meet, but I'm really pleased that you're taking time to be with us today at the Sealaska virtual annual meeting. I'm calling you from Angoon, Alaska, and I'm really happy to say hello to you from our traditional hometown of Angoon. Sun shining and blue skies here, and we're waiting for the sockeyes to come in. Thank you again.
Thank you, Albert. And again, at the top of the meeting, we mentioned we were scheduled to be in Angoon, and we mentioned a few directors, or as many, well, a number of directors that had roots in Angoon. And this is another one. Director London actually has roots in Angoon and Ketchikan. Thank you, Tate, for joining the video conference.
Thank you, Chairman Nelson. Hello, shareholders. Very nice to be with you today. I wish that we could see your faces because you bring smiles to ours. Thank you for joining us, and we hope that you come away from today learning a little bit more about your corporation, because this is your corporation, our corporation. As Chairman Nelson introduced me, my name is Tate London. I am Raven, Queen AD. My family's originally from Angoon. I'm the son of the late Ernie Boyd and Claudette London from Ketchikan. And again, it's an honor to be here with you today. I look forward to our interaction throughout this meeting. Gunischish Hawa.
Thank you, Tate. Director Reinhardt.
Good afternoon and welcome, shareholders. I'm Richard Reinhardt. Tashi Yohat Dusak, Kiksadi Ayahat, Gagan Hid Ayahat, Shakwan Hatseti. I live in Washington with my 3 brown bears, Tequidis, my wife Melissa, my son Soren, and my daughter Tallis. I also have 3 older sons, Richard, Matt, and Levi, and 4 grandchildren and 3 grandsons. I am landless from Wrangell. I am the CEO of Tlingit Haida Tribal Business Corporation. I have a master's in business administration, a bachelor's in accounting. I'm the chairman of Ha'ani, our natural resource holding company, and former vice president and CFO of Sealaska Corporation. I have served on the board since 2013. Gunishish Hawa, thank you for being here.
Gunishish, thank you, Richard. Director Thomas.
Yeah, good afternoon. My name is Edward Thomas. I have 2 Tlingit names and 1 Haida name. Zach Yilchatu Isak, Shans Gedek Yilchatu Isak, Skilquidans and Haida. Hawa, Toyak Hat Newsum, Gunas Chish, Atlain Gunas Chish. I am forever grateful to our shareholders for their support over the years. Thank you very much.
Gunishish, thank you, Ed. Got a director here, and this is our 14th position, the board youth advisor position. It's held by Maka Mantur. Maka.
Gunishish, Joe, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Gunishish, ik ewa je achwasgeni, kers echt je gatu sakje gnutti. It's funny to ask Tlingits, Haidas, and Tsimshians to have a short introduction because it's like, okay, do we want to do the 1-minute version? We can do the 10-minute version. I want to acknowledge my great-grandfather's people, the Tequidi, my grandfather, my great-grandfather was Olaf Abraham. And I want to acknowledge all my grandparents here on the call today. I'm calling in from the Naina land in Anchorage, Alaska. And I'm so excited. I'm so excited for Michaela to be coming onto my position. And my heart is breaking a little bit to be stepping back from this role, but excited for today. Gunishish.
Gunishish. Thank you, Maka. I'm getting to that phase on the eyeglasses as far as reading glasses, and we're going to go next to our incoming board youth advisor, Michaela.
Hello, Shingekena, Skohats, Yuchat, Dubzok, Yeshayahat, Taklanadia Nahat Sati. Hi, my name is Michaela Demmer. My Shinget name is Skohats. I am Raven Bullhead from Klawak. I am happy to be here and look forward to the rest of this meeting. Thank you and Jahawa.
Thank you, Michaela. I missed him on the screen on the list here, but I didn't miss him. I just missed the sequencing here. Director David Goad, I believe you're on the video.
Yeah. Hello, everyone. I'm David Goad. My Tlingit name is Gunaish. I'm Eagle Killer Whale, Kagwantan from the Two-Door House in Sitka. About a year and a half ago, I was chosen by the Sealaska Board of Directors to complete the remaining term of the late Ross Sobolev, and it was an honor to serve. As you know, I chose not to run for election this year, so this is my last meeting as a director. And with that, I say thank you to the Sealaska Board of Directors, the Sealaska management team, and to all Sealaska shareholders. Gunishish.
Gunishish. Thank you, David, and thank you for your service, not just here to Sealaska for this brief period, but your service in general. We know you've got a long career of doing good work for our people in many organizations, but also grandkids and family and other things happening right now, and we are happy for you as far as the new grandchildren and you being able to move towards closer to retirement. So thank you for your service. Over this last year, our reports are going to be about 2019. And one thing that was significant that Sealaska that we did in 2019 was establish these participation committees, and I think we're just going to make a moment here to acknowledge them. I don't know that they're on the video, but these participation committees are comprised of seven, I think it's seven, and seven shareholders who are very engaged and have an opportunity and have stepped up to get to know the company a little better, largely on the management side, to learn what's happening. And from the outset, the board really didn't have a heavy hand other than just creating these things and saying, this is your space, this is your place, this is your company. We know we need to get better at communicating, at connecting, and finding avenues to do it, and quit trying to bottle it all up into one annual meeting or one community meeting circuit. We need to do it more on an annual basis around the year. And one mechanism was these participation committees. So we want to thank them for their service, their leadership, their commitment. And there's going to be 3-year staggered terms, so there'll be opportunity for others to join. And you need, as you hear their names, I encourage each of you to look it up a little bit and to see who these folks are, to reach out to them. They really are, just like the rest of us, just shareholders trying to do good work on behalf of all of you and help the company become a better company. For the Southeast group, the chairman of that group is Laird Jones. And for the rest of Alaska, the head of that group, the chairman is Alvin Edenshaw. Some folks know as Dooner. And the lower 48, kind of everywhere outside of Alaska, the current chair of that group is Cecilia Tavallaro. And I want to thank her for her leadership, not participating just here, but her championing and helping the team really keep the heat on the landless effort. That's our number one priority. Sealaska wouldn't be here but for a bunch of colonial type folks stealing our land. And that battle's not over. A&B took that up, and we're continuing that fight to finish our land entitlement for the landless communities. And on that outside group, just a comment and a thank you to Monaco Ortiz, who a lot of you got to know very well. He was the head of that group for a while and jumped into the pool, decided to run for a board member here, and really a great, energetic guy with a good family and a good heart. And I want to thank all of the participation committee members for stepping up, for throwing your name in the hat, and encourage you to continue to keep just doing what you're doing and asking us to do more and finding ways to help, because we are all doing this together, doing the best we can. Today's meeting is a business meeting. If I didn't say it earlier, I'll say it now. We'll call the meeting of shareholders to order. And thank you for all of you shareholders who participated already by proxy. Normally we would have a floor session here where it's live and some voting happening, but we aren't able to since it's a virtual meeting. We had to shift a little, and that includes our inspector of elections, learning how to do a lot more. Well, not actually learning how to do almost everything virtually. And I'm going to ask our inspector of elections from the LG Rayfield firm, this is Mr. Mark Mestag, to give a report from the inspector of elections.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. It is our pleasure as the inspector of elections to provide our services to Sealaska and act as inspector of elections. There are more than 67.98% of shares of common stock represented at this meeting in person or by proxy, and a quorum is present. A final report of the election result will be given later in the meeting. That is my initial report, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Kinagat yuchat duasach. Yech ayachat. Kline di nachatsati. Takeway di yadi ayachat. My name is Jaylene Kukash. I'm speaking to you today to give a corporate secretary report for our election. I It's one of my responsibilities annually to run our annual meeting and our annual election. Because there is a quorum in attendance and necessary filings have been made, all legal requirements for holding this meeting have therefore been satisfied. So we can proceed with this meeting and receive the election results. This year, we did file our proxy and proxy statement as well as our annual report with Banking and Securities on May 1st, 2020. Following that filing, we provided the same documents to all of our shareholders of record as of April 17th. So our shareholders should have received that either by mail or this year for the first time, for those who opted to go green, they received an electronic copy by email. I am happy to report that the board set a goal this year of 65% voter turnout, and we not only met that goal, but we exceeded that goal with roughly 67% voter turnout. That's the highest turnout we've had in many years. So thank you to all the shareholders for participating this year in this election. We also had the highest percentage of shareholders to vote online this year. We had 46% of our shareholders use the online voting option. So we really appreciate the use of that technology by all of our shareholders. Despite the COVID-19 pandemic, I'm very happy to see shareholder participation this year at a record high. We didn't have a chance to meet in the communities like we usually do, so we made a very concerted effort on social media and mailings and otherwise to ensure that our shareholders were informed about the election, were informed about the important legal documents that were available, and to ensure that we had voter participation. So I'm happy that this turned out the way it did, despite the fact that we missed seeing all your faces at the community meetings and here at the annual meeting. So that's my corporate secretary report. You'll hear from me a little bit later on another matter. But for now, I would like to introduce Sealaska Director Barbara Cadiente Nelson. She's the chair of our Shareholder Relations Committee. Barbara?
Thank you, Jaylene. I apologize if you can hear our footprints on the floorboards of this special house. You know, each year, Sealaska makes a significant and important investment in our culture. That covenant, the perpetuation of our culture, our language, our traditions, the very essence of who we are, our foods, our way of life, was written into ANCSA. So it is our directive as well from our ancestors, from our forebears, to continue that. Since inception, Sealaska has donated roughly $35.5 million in cash donations and in-kind services to Sealaska Heritage Institute, also known as SHI. Sealaska looks to SHI to perpetuate the Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian culture. A few highlights of SHI work includes the assertion of our identity, our presence in downtown Suntakahini, some know it as Juneau. This includes the beautiful Walter Soboleff building where we are, the bronze house posts representing the Tlingit, the Haida, the Tsimshian people. A prideful moment was announcing the Ruth Demmert Language Learners Scholarship. There is much more to be proud of, much, much more. As an educator in Juneau schools, I have eye accounts of seeing the funding of education for the education of our Native children in the school district, the TCLL program, the other grants that come in to help train teachers and educators, other educators and administrators, bringing in our elders into the classroom. All of these are through the efforts of Sealaska Heritage Institute, as well as their other partners here in Juneau, such as Gold Belt Heritage. There's so much more to actually shout out about, but right now, please help me welcome SHI President and Director Emeritus for Sealaska, Dr. Rosita Whirl, who will tell us much more about how Sealaska's yearly investment of an average $1.5 million each year impacts us. It impacts our people. Welcome, Dr. Whirl. The floor is yours.
Okay, good speech, Madam Chair. And also good speech to our Sealaska directors and officers, and also welcome to our Sealaska shareholders. Every year we have to thank Sealaska for its tremendous support for the Sealaska Heritage Institute. I can say that without the contributions from Sealaska, that we would not be able to do the kind of work that we have done. So I just continually and always, recommend, thank Sealaska for its ongoing support. It's there for SHI at all times. I also want to acknowledge our Board of Trustees who serve us. We also have a Council of Traditional Scholars. We also have an Artist Committee and also a Language Committee that guides us in our work. But most of all, I'd like to thank our Sealaska Heritage staff. I could tell you that we have a group of people who work tirelessly to meet our mission and to implement our programs. And without the dedication, their hard work and commitment, we would not be as successful as we are. I always like to report on the value creation, the kind of things that we could actually quantify. And so I'd like to report that in 2019, Sealaska was able to give us cash and in-kind donations of $1.7 million. And from that money, SHI was able to generate another $8 million to support our programming and our activities. We also employ 54 staff members, of whom 63% of them are Native Plus. We also have 117 contractors, of whom 64% of them are Native people. In addition to that, we have 236 artists who sell through our store and through our online, our now online website. And of those artists, 82% of them are Alaska Natives. If I could just sneak in a little report for 2020, I just want to tell you that, the pandemic has brought a lot of challenges for all of us, but it's also brought some opportunities. And I think one of the great things that we have found is that in transferring all of our ongoing programs to virtual programs, we've managed to vastly increase the number of people who are participating in our program. And it's going to change the way that SHI does business in terms of now we will be providing actual physical classes as well as virtual online classes. So Madam Chair, with that, I'd like to now begin our 2019 report of our activities, looking at the highlights from 2019 with this film. Thank you very much, Madam Chair.
Sealaska Heritage is a nonprofit founded at the urging of clan leaders and elders in 1980 to perpetuate and enhance Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian cultures. 2019 was a successful year in terms of the total amount of funds generated and the programs it supported. The employment and contract opportunities provided for shareholders and artists, and the number of constituents who participated in our programs and events. In 2019, Sealaska donated $1.5 million in cash and approximately $200,000 in in-kind services to SHI. The Institute leveraged this and raised an additional $7.6 million to support all programming and the operation of the Walter Soboleff Building. In total, Sealaska Heritage generated $9.3 million in 2019. Sealaska also committed land for the Sealaska Heritage Arts Campus, as well as a $1 million contribution toward its construction. This video shows highlights of SHI's programming that year. In 2019, Sealaska Heritage offered art instruction to people across the state and in the lower 48. SHI continued its spruce fruit mentorship with master weaver Dolores Churchill and sponsored workshops on skin sewing, horn spoons, halibut hooks, form line design, and moccasin making to more than 250 people in Anchorage, Juneau, Haines, Cake, Klawock, Saxman, Sitka, and Seattle. Many of the Institute's art programs are offered through a partnership with the University of Alaska Southeast and the Institute of American Indian Arts in New Mexico. SHI's goal is to create a bachelor's degree program with an emphasis on Northwest Coast art. Through the program, SHI also sponsored its annual Tsetsin Northwest Coast Art and Leadership Academy, which provides engaging, culturally based education and art activities for high school students. In 2019, more than 430 people participated in the program, which served people from Angoon, Juneau, Klawock, Metlakatla, Hoonah, Heidelberg, Anchorage, and Washington State. SHI hosted 5 artists in residence and represented 230 artists through its native art markets, including the Sealaska Heritage Store. SHI also gave art excursions to more than 400 students as part of its goal to promote cross-cultural understanding. In all, Sealaska Heritage offered art programming to more than 6,200 people from Alaska and the lower 48. In 2019, Sealaska Heritage, in partnership with Tlingit and Haida Central Council, continued its award-winning early literacy program, Baby Raven Reads. Through the program, SHI published 3 new children's books, including its first fully trilingual book. Staff also learned its book Raven Makes the Aleutians won a picture book honor from the American Indian Library Association. The book was illustrated by Haida artist Janine Gibbons. The program served more than 650 people from Angoon, Craig, Hoonah, Heidelberg, Juneau, Petersburg, Saxman, Sitka, Wrangell, and Yakutat. SHI also sponsored its Math and Culture Academy for 120 people from Anchorage, Hoonah, Juneau, Klawock, and Metlakatla. The Institute continued to sponsor the Tlingit Culture, Language, and Literacy Program in Juneau, which served more than 80 people in 2019. SHI sponsored its Voices on the Land program in 2019 for 2,100 students in Ketchikan, Yakutat, and Juneau. The program improves literacy skills through performing arts and digital storytelling. For the 3rd year, the Institute co-sponsored Native Youth Olympics, which served more than 2,000 people across the state. Other athletic programs included SHI's Tsetsin Hoop Camp and Tsetsin Running Camp. Sealaska Heritage continued to sponsor the college program PETAS, which seeks to grow the number of Alaska Native teachers and administrators. In 2019, more than 50 Alaska Native students received scholarships through PETAS, and 12 graduated from the program. SHI also continued its program to revitalize the languages of the Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian. In all, SHI offered education programming to more than 5,300 people from 10 communities in Southeast Alaska. SHI curates exhibits for the public to promote cross-cultural understanding. In 2019, Sealaska Heritage unveiled 2 new exhibits. War and Peace delved into traditional Tlingit laws, the consequences for breaking them, and the complex peace ceremonies that ended conflicts and restored balance. SHI also curated an exhibit on the work of the celebrated Tlingit artist Nathan Jackson. SHI continued its lecture series, which served more than 500 people, and published a study that recommended major changes to the way the state of Alaska manages the Sac-Roe herring fishery in Sitka Sound. The study predicted dire outcomes for the ancient subsistence herring roe fishery located there if things don't change. The study also examined the enormous, wide-ranging social and ecological benefits of Pacific herring from Sitka Sound and the unique Alaskan subsistence economy and ecosystem services which depend on their production and distribution. In all, SHI offered culture and history programming to more than 13,000 people. Executive staff monitors and advocates on public policy issues and funding at the federal, state, and city government levels. Staff advocates on matters related to art, culture, education, and funding. In 2019, SHI launched a fundraising campaign to build the Sealaska Heritage Arts Campus in downtown Juneau. Among other things, the campus will include indoor and outdoor spaces for artists to make monumental pieces, performing arts and gatherings, classrooms, and native art markets. By the end of 2019, SHI had secured nearly $9 million in funds and pledges toward its $14 million goal. In 2019, SHI also advocated to establish the arts as an arts industry under state policy, require the state of Alaska to use Alaskan artists for its Percent for Art in Public Places program, amend federal and state legislation to include arts and crafts as eligible for VocaTech training programs, establish Juneau as the Northwest Coast Arts Capital, and designate Northwest Coast Arts as a national treasure, amend the Migratory Bird Treaty Act regulations to authorize sale of arts with migratory bird feathers, stop a national ban on all ivory sales, and oppose a Facebook ban of ivory, seal, and sea otter sales, assist with the Elizabeth Peratrovich coin and celebration, preserve the hobby shop at Lemon Creek Correctional Center, establish a tax credit for collectors who return sacred objects to tribes, protect subsistence harvests, protect cultural objects, and prohibit export of sacred objects, support the renaming of the Willoughby District to Occoquan Village District, support the Chaco Cultural Heritage Protection Act, support the extension of the Alaska Education Tax Credit Program, support the Higher Education Act reauthorization alternative teacher training certification to allow Native people in small communities to work remotely to earn teaching degrees, overturn limitations on administrative costs for federal grants, protect federal funding for the Alaska Native Education Program, increase federal funding for Native arts, education, and language programming, support funding for the National Endowment for the Arts, the National Endowment for the Humanities, and the Institute of Museum and Library Services, protect SHI's tax exemption status with the City and Borough of Juneau, and support legislation to provide necessary funds to address historic trauma. In all, SHI served more than 24,000 people from 22 communities in Alaska and the lower 48. This video shows highlights of programming in 2019 at Sealaska Heritage, For more information, see sealaskaheritage.org. And we hope you'll consider making a donation to fund the Sealaska Heritage Arts Campus. The names of people who give $25 or more will be permanently engraved at the campus as founding donors.
I just have to say, Atlen Gunas Chish to Rosita Whirl, Dr. Whirl and her staff for all of the amazing things that they do. And I just have to give a shout out to my triplet nephews, my identical 3-year-old triplet nephews who are just in love with the Baby Raven Reads books. They line up with their books when I come over to visit, and it's always fun to, even I learn from them, so it's exciting to see more coming out. Next, we're going to talk about our public policy at Sealaska. Each December, the Board of Directors reviews and adopts a list of priorities around advocacy efforts for our shareholders. One of the highest state priorities is continued and adequate funding for the Alaska Marine Highway System. The ferry service is critical, as anyone knows who lives in Southeast, to the shareholders and communities, and provides residents with access to affordable healthcare, cultural events, affordable travel for school activities, as well as access to our regional hubs to purchase basic needs. Up next on the agenda is an update on public policy priorities. So I'm going to invite Jaylene Kukash, who serves as our Vice President for Policy and Legal Affairs.
Sheesh, Jody. Me again. I'm back. Just wanted to provide another report because in addition to my corporate secretary responsibilities, I also serve as the Vice President for Policy and Legal Affairs. So one of my primary responsibilities is to push forth the policy priorities that are set by the board annually. I'll start with the landless effort, which is our top priority in federal legislation. You may see them now calling themselves Alaska Natives Without Land, and these are our 5 communities in Southeast that were left out of ANCSA. Our legislative efforts this year were to get another bill introduced in the current Congress. Unfortunately, due to COVID, the efforts legislatively in DC have stalled because the priority of the Congress right now has been other priorities such as COVID relief and appropriations efforts. But we continue to talk regularly to the Alaska delegation to push for introduction and to maintain progress on this important piece of legislation. We also have worked very diligently with the representatives from the 5 landless communities to do grassroots efforts and work in each of the communities. We had in this past year meetings in each of the 5 communities, as well as stakeholder meetings in Anchorage and in Seattle and here in Juneau. So we're trying to make sure that we have grassroots support and that our shareholders and communities are supporting this effort. So stay tuned because this is something that we will never give up on. It's been since ANCSA passed that our 5 communities have been left out, and it's an inequity that needs to be addressed. We also worked very diligently on the Alaska Native Veterans allotment legislation. We were happy to report that in 2019, there was successful passage of an Alaska Native Veterans allotment amendment. Unfortunately, due to some negotiations that took place at the end of passage of that bill, there were some very strict limitations on the lands available for selection by our Alaska Native veterans that served in Vietnam. So while it did pass, there's some difficulty ensuring that there will be adequate and appropriate lands for our veterans, but we continue to talk to the Alaska delegation and the Bureau of Land Management and the BIA to ensure that this is a fair distribution and allotment program for our Alaska Native veterans. This is available to Vietnam-era veterans, and if you are eligible and served in Vietnam and missed that allotment application process, you should contact the BIA. Or reach out to Sealaska and we can give you more information. Another item that we spend significant time on, not just this year, but annually, is subsistence, our traditional way of life. We have been involved in this past year in the Sitka herring litigation as amicus, and just to support the tribe, the Sitka tribe of Alaska, financially and with legal and policy support in the litigation efforts. We also regularly attend Board of Fish, Board of Game, and Federal Subsistence Board meetings to provide comments and supportive comments for our communities. And we participate in working groups throughout the state, both with the Alaska Federation Natives, with the First Alaskans Institute, but also with our ANCSA Regional Association, so that we can continue to keep our traditional way of life at the forefront. We work, as Jody mentioned, our vice chair, one of our state priorities is Alaska Marine Highway. We do work diligently every year with the state legislatures on the state budget to ensure that our community needs are met, including the infrastructure needs of our rural communities, the Alaska Marine Highway, of course, education, and other priorities of our communities. I do want to mention that we have been involved in the CARES Act and in COVID relief for our communities, both through the state legislature and the federal, in the Congress. We have been working to ensure that our Native communities, our rural communities in Alaska get our fair share, so that our communities are supportive, because we're all facing difficult challenges with COVID at this time for all of our communities. I have a few more items really quickly I want to hit on. I do want to remind all of our shareholders to complete their Census 2020 survey. This is very important for all of our communities to ensure we get our fair share of funding through the federal government for our education, for transportation, for other infrastructure needs. So just really want to encourage our shareholders to complete that census survey. The last report I saw on response rates was very low. I think the state as a whole is at about 50%. Some of our communities are at 10 to 15% response. So I challenge all of our communities and shareholders to respond to the census survey. We also have election 2020 this year. I want to encourage all of our shareholders and communities to get out there and vote in the election. And we do make a concerted effort at Sealaska for Get Out the Native Vote. So watch for those communications from Sealaska and our partners throughout Southeast. In closing, I just want to give a shout out again to our graduates this year. I know it was a tough year for graduates, not being able to have the usual ceremonies and all of that, so I wanted to recognize our graduates. And I want to give a shout out to my family out in Angoon. Sorry we can't be there for this meeting, but just want to say hi to my family out there. So that's my report on public policy, and I'm available at Sealaska if anybody has any questions or needs more information. Gunach Chish. My mask.
Thank you, Jaylene. You know, as a company, we're not just an average company. We're not a normal company. We're a family, a collection of folks that are all related, and these organizations are here because we've had to respond to a taking many years ago, and we're just making the best of it with our collection of entities, Tlingit Haida, Alaska Native Brotherhood and Sisterhood, and these corporations. So I do want to thank the tribes for engaging and working in the Being Good Relatives area and not participating in the CARES Act litigation, because we know in Alaska our situation is a little different than the lower 48. I stepped up here for our next presenter, which we're always happy to celebrate and hear from, but I wanted to just take the moments and just have a quiet moment and reflect, because our community meetings got shortened. It was right before our first community meeting. Byron passed, and we postponed or canceled the meeting, and then we came here and convened. And Byron was near and dear to the company, but no more near and dear to his family and his son, who happens to be our CEO, Anthony Malott, who's charging ahead in very healthy ways, and fortunate to be here in a good time in history as far as a company, and to be in the spot he's in right now. I think a lot of us are proud and happy with where the company, how we've turned the corner financially, and now we're working hard to make sure there's a deeper, more meaningful impact happening with our shareholders. And Anthony is someone who just gets it, and we're happy to continue to hold him up and the team up. There's this meeting. It consists of an election of directors, and once folks shift from candidate to becoming a director, they've got a fiduciary duty to act in the best interest of the whole company. And I think all of our directors take that seriously. But we need a team effort to get where we're getting to, and the team consists of the board working in a healthy relationship with the management team. I wanted to also step up here to see if Mr. Director Beasley had his microphone working. He was at the front end last time, and he wasn't able to get the technology happening to say hello, but I do want to lose the opportunity to see if his microphone's working here.
Mr. Chairman, thank you. My microphone is working, and welcome to everybody. I'm in Juneau, Alaska. Thank you.
Thank you, Mick. And as all of us know, that one's Mick, and he's got a brother Rick, and you got to hold them up together. And sometimes, it's hard to tell when they're separate. But thank you for participating. My quick summary here for where I hand off here, because it's going to be the business report. I don't know if that's going to be built into Anthony's or not, but we are going to launch, and we are moving on a rebrand of the company, and there'll be more to come on that. We're excited about that. We've had some new shareholders come on just this past year to help the communications team really take off in a powerful way. You've probably felt the velocity and communication flow happening and pick up this last year a little bit. But we published in the annual report and other places that we committed to publishing a 100-year plan. And obviously that 100-year plan is not about the end game of where we're going to be 100 years from now. It's about finding ways to pull us all together in a more healthy way right now. So this team we're working with right now, they get it. Sealaska's purpose is to strengthen our culture, our people, our homelands. And that takes a lot of us working together, coming together in a healthy, constructive way. So with that, I want to introduce, as I've done a number of times, or I guess since 2014, our CEO, Anthony Malott, to give the business report, and you'll have others participating by the video conference. It's really an exciting team, and I'm just fortunate to be here working with them. So Anthony, the floor is yours, and we're all with you. So gonna cheesh for the work you're doing here.
Cheesh, Joe. It's really exciting. They showed me the numbers of shareholders who are online right now. 1,350 are viewing this. Thank you so much. Cheesh, Hawa, Doiksam Newsome for being with us today. We thanked Angoon earlier, and that's really important. I find the strength to stand up and present to shareholders in as truthful and honest a way as I can, from being in our communities, from being with our shareholders, from having conversations, from getting hugs and handshakes and conversations with friends and folks that want to provide input to Sealaska. It's tough this year without that. But to Angoon, I hope you have a strong sockeye run. I hope the summer is great and healthy for all, and we will see you again. So when I've sat here through the meeting, I've had to find that strength and courage from the words of all those that have welcomed us today. Just really excited to have our veterans kick off the day, all that they've done for our country and our people. To hear the words of King Gay David Katzik, he's just been a treasure to our people and to Sealaska. Thank you. Richard Peterson, what a friend. Tlingit and Haida is truly working side by side Sealaska, and as he said, there is nothing we can't do if we're working together. Thank you, Douglas Indian Association, for letting us know that we have been through trying times before. We have been through times that have brought us to our knees. We've been through times that we believed we couldn't come back from, yet we always have. And I'm with you, and I share that story of the burning of your village because it can never be forgotten. Healing can happen, but that story can never be forgotten. One of the most powerful moments for me, thank you, Grand President Moreno, for bringing Elizabeth Paratovich into this room with us. There's no one I think of more when I think of courage and strength. The courage to stand up in a very scary place. Our legislature, Senate offices, with no friendly faces around you, and speak the truth. It was a tremendous act of courage, and it gives me strength at this moment. I thank you all for the comments. I know I may have missed some, but all of your words today have filled me with happiness and hope that everything that we have good going on right now will continue. Again, my name is Anthony Malott. Ganak Yuchat Duasak, Tagwedi Ayachat, Kwashkakwan Yadi Ayachat, Koyakan Athabaskan Dutch Khan Ayachat, Tekwedi Ach Dachanuku. My Tlingit name is Ganak. I'm Tagwedi. I'm a child of the Kwashkakwan from Yakutat, Alaska, a grandchild of the Koyakan Athabaskan. My mother is in Rampart, Alaska, her homeland on the Yukon River right now. I'm very happy for that, for her being with her family. And the Tekwedi are ever present in our lives. My great-grandfather was Tekwedi, and they are our outer shell. And thank you for your presence. I want to start, I didn't get the chance at our community meeting, the virtual community meeting we had to talk about the annual report cover. We talked about the theme for sure, and the theme has been ever present in today and through the videos and through the discussions we've had at the community meeting and through this entire election. It's a powerful theme because we cherish you. There is so much there. All we did was simply try to represent just the so many areas, items, people that we cherish. We cherish our elders. We cherish our youth. We cherish our community leaders. We cherish our language learners. We cherish our culture bearers. We cherish all those that are living in our communities and living our traditional life. And we cherish our land, our food, and our water as represented by this cover. And finally, we cherish the wisdom of our ancestors. And the wisdom of our ancestors lives in so many forms. Our dance, our regalia, our art, it lives in us. And that's the message of because we cherish you. I'm ever grateful to have so many things that Sealaska can cherish. I personally am grateful, but with that gratefulness and with that understanding of all that we have, all that we cherish, it's a great responsibility. It keeps us moving forward, and again, I thank the board of directors for choosing this theme, to going back to our elders' words from 40 years ago, to listening to the words of our shareholders and their elders who gave us this wisdom. We will keep this theme going well beyond this year. Gunak Chish. I want to start with a couple slides here before I pass it along to our COO who's been waiting patiently. It wouldn't be a Sealaska annual meeting if we weren't a little bit behind schedule. So all those that are waiting in line, thank you. And all those online being patient, thank you. A lot of information we want to share. We tried to pack it in. I think we're going to get close to our target, but thanks for patience on the timeline. I've walked through this at the community meeting, so I don't want to be repetitive, but I want to go ahead and go to the next slide. And there's two reasons we focus right now on the financial success of Sealaska. Well, actually, three reasons. The first reason, it's unique to our history. The 3 strongest net income years in Sealaska's history, the greatest revenue our businesses have ever created. So 1, it's unique to our history. 2, we need everybody to know that financial success leads to shareholder success. This only matters to us when we are able to increase dividends. It only matters to us when we are able to stand up a memorial fund that shareholders ask for. It only matters to us when we're able to add $10 million to our scholarship endowment, when we're able to stand up a $10 million language fund. That's why financial success is important. That's why we show these slides, because that needs to be forever remembered, that the financial success of Sealaska leads to shareholder success, and we want it to keep going. The third reason, and is really the most powerful one to me, is that there's a reason for this success. There are people behind this success. There's a strategy, and it's a long-term strategy, and at the center of it is values and a representation of who we are as a people. And because of that, because we know how we created this success, that means to me that we can keep this going. That we can continue this financial success, we can continue growing the income of Sealaska and continuing to add to shareholder programs and benefits, growing dividends, because we know what has created this success. And we have to understand it even more deeply. You know, these first few years, it's not going to be straight up always. It's never going to be, you know, year after year of the greatest financial success. You know, we'll have some ups and downs. We still have investment income that can be negative or positive in any given year. In fact, investment income was negative in 2017. We have 7I income that goes up and down. We can have plus or minus $10 million swings in our 7I investment income. We face that, but it's our business income that is the core of our strategy. To be able to build our business income to a point that it is the core of the financial success of Sealaska and the driver of Sealaska's financial success. And we have done that by focusing on land, food, and water, and things that matter to our people. We've done that by bringing in extremely talented, diligent partners and employees who understand the people we represent, the Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian, and enjoy working for Sealaska. And we've done this by understanding our core native values, but expressing them as global values. And as we continue to build confidence that this is working, I really do trust that this financial success will continue. And to shareholders, that only matters if your voice is included and you help us continue this financial success and continue to let us know what programs, benefits, and priorities you have for Sealaska and our financial success. At this point, I'm going to break up my presentation a bit. You know, we showed the fact that we cherish our land, food, and water. I can't think of any better long-term strategy than to tie your businesses to things that you cherish, things that you care about. That is one of the cores of the 100-year plan. I can easily envision Sealaska being in business in land, food, and water 50 years from now, 100 years from now, because it is core of what we care about, and it is so important to our people, and it transcends our region. These are core to those around the globe. Everybody understands this, including and very in-depthly our COO, who will be presenting on our businesses here, Terry Downs. He's an Irishman. He's proud of his culture. He's as proud of his homeland as we are. He knows our values because they're his values. He understands us as a people. And what he brings to Sealaska is a broadness of experience that is just mind-blowing to me. I mean, working on almost every continent, Australia, South America, the Middle East, Europe, Asia, working in different industries. He brings some operating expertise that is grounded in a search for truth, honesty, and data so we can make the best decisions for our companies. And he drives our businesses forward. And I'm just so happy that Terry is willing to work with Sealaska, and thank him for the presentation and time he is giving today to speak with you, our shareholders. Thank you, Terry.
Thank you, Anthony. I hope you can all hear me okay. It's a pleasure to have a chance to talk to you this afternoon. Again, as everyone has said, sorry I can't be there in person. I enjoy the annual meetings every year and a chance to learn more about Sealaska and its places and the richness of its heritage. It's fun for me. That's the inspiration behind everything that we've done here. But I wanted to chat a little bit about what's been happening at Sealaska the last few months. Not so much, charts and numbers, just more the essence of what's been going on. Of course, COVID-19 has affected and informed pretty much every decision we've made in the last 4 or 5 months. It's our philosophy in tackling this pandemic has been pretty straightforward and, consistent with who we are. As Anthony talked about, when you're really clear about why you do things and how you do things, decisions almost make themselves because they come from you and they come from something that's deeply ingrained and you believe in. So our philosophy has been to take care of our people, to keep them safe and to keep them working so, they can continue to support their families. And luckily, that's been working. I know, unfortunately, we're still in the throes of this pandemic. It would be naive to think that the worst is behind us, although, of course, I hope that it is. But we're prepared for the fact that it may not be. And going into this crisis, where there was limited guidance and often limited information, despite the best efforts of the authorities, our philosophy was pretty simple: to do more than we're being asked to do. When people are being asked to maybe not show up for work and when they were giving some fairly vague guidance, we decided we would be more conservative and more careful than we were being asked to do. And we basically maintained that philosophy every step as the restrictions and limitations on what we could do and how we could work ratcheted up. But we couldn't have done that without the creativity and support and hard work and dedication of people all across the company and who made sure people could work remotely and enabled people to put invoicing in place so people could invoice from their home rather than going to the office to have to send invoices. Simple things it may sound like, but really fundamental things. And it's a creativity and the commitment and the hard work of all those people working together that I'm so proud of. And as a result of that, and partly as a result of the businesses we've chosen, which is, are informed by who Sealaska is and who its shareholders are, but because land, water, and food are important pretty much to everyone and staples and are becoming increasingly challenged. And it wasn't brilliance or brilliant thinking. It's, there's a lot of luck involved. But as this desperately unlucky situation unfolded before us, those businesses remained resilient. And, again, without the thoughtfulness and the hard work of the people that run those businesses and ensured that people could go to work and stay safe, because most of our people have been working, diligently, then as a result of that, all of our businesses have been strong. And we're expecting, again, going into an uncertain period, but based on what we've seen to date, we're expecting from an operational point of view, and as Anthony pointed out, 7I and investments is harder to forecast because they're not in our control. But from an operation point of view, we're expecting that this year will be broadly similar to last year, maybe slightly stronger, driven and to a large degree by our seafood business that's seen exceptionally high levels of demand, as you can probably all appreciate, despite the fact that a lot of restaurants and the food service, as it's called, aspect of our business that serves those types of businesses, of course, has largely disappeared. But people still eat, and they've gone to the retailer instead. And luckily they've I think partly because of its availability and its health benefits, and long term, I think this is likely going to exacerbate those trends we're already seeing. People are buying, seafood. It's because our supply chain is in the United States. We don't import seafood in a large degree. It mostly comes from Alaska. We store it in Seattle and we process it year round and turn it into value-added products. And that's, in a time like this, been a very healthy supply chain. And it's enabled us to keep those retailers supplied, and they've been very demanding. And because, again, of the thoughtfulness of our management and leadership in our plants, they've been able to keep the employees in our plants safe. And we've had no major outbreaks. We've had some isolated cases, but luckily we've had no one across our entire organization get seriously ill. And, we continue to make sure people feel safe and comfortable and have the option to work at home. But as a result of all of that, our businesses, like I said, will have a similar year to last year. And, we've managed to keep all of our people working. And, other than one or two isolated cases, which again, luckily did not, degenerate into serious illness for those people, all of our people are also healthy and doing well. So that's been our priority. And that simple philosophy is the same one we'll use as we come out of this crisis. When there's been early, attempts to open up, we've been slightly more cautious. And we remain concerned and diligent about where this, awful disease may show up next. And then outside of seafood, and I would like touch on that primarily, also our infrastructure and water business has been deemed essential, and we operate up and down the West Coast. But those businesses have stayed pretty strong too. They've had some reduction in activity because it's been difficult in some circumstances for people to be in the field and be safe. But for the most part, those businesses are performing almost at the level of last year, which was a record year. And, more important than that is the work we're able to do. We're feeding people and making sure their drinking water is safe. And we're trying to make sure the environments that they inhabit are, slowly being improved. And that's really, the philosophy behind everything that Sealaska does, as Anthony touched on. We're committed to building an organization that can be part of the biggest challenge facing our species, I think, which is how do we continue to feed and water and educate and house a growing population and concurrently reduce the damage we've already done to the planet and heal the planet so we can do that for the future generations to come. Something that the people who own Sealaska understand deeply because of their unique history and culture and connection to this wild and beautiful place that nourishes not just the people who live there, but the entire population of the world who appreciate and are nourished by the seafood from Alaska. So historically, over the last 4 or 5 years, we've really been focused on building a seafood business. And we've been, focused on getting value out of those deals and integrating them and getting them ingrained into who we are. And the management's done a superb job, as I said, but we've been also building our water and infrastructure business too. We've added an ocean sciences capability in October of last year. We most recently added CS Marine, which is a coastal engineering company. 2/3 of the coastline in California is threatened with sea level rise of anyone's guess, but at least 0.5 meter before the end of the century. And a lot of places in the world will that will be devastating, especially to low-lying deltas in Southeast Asia and in Asia, more broadly in East Asia, that feed billions of people in those areas. So sea level rise is an urgent problem. And we've been basically trying to buy into organizations like CS Marine that are positioned to be able to help solve some of those challenges and have the experience and the assets and the ability to operate in difficult places. So CS Marine is an important addition. And then one of our most interesting and one of the most talked about, one I get asked about the most, very fun deal that we did this year is begin to support the success and growth of Barnacle Seafoods, which is based right in Juneau, a company that's been incredibly innovative and creative and linked to Sealaska almost from its origin, and has been able to take kelp from Southeast Alaska and turn it into some really interesting food products that are generating more and more curiosity amongst consumers. And to me, that's a fun deal because it's kind of at the nexus of everything we've just talked about. It's a local business. It works closely with our communities. It takes virgin materials from the ocean that are otherwise often not turned into something more productive in normal times. I understand in traditional times it's been happening for thousands of years, but it's drawing upon that and getting them into the mouths of people who want to eat something tasty and healthy, hopefully one day all across the world. And not only that, but it's also, it's at home and it has this deep connection to our communities. And it's just feels, and also because kelp is a species that is healthy for the ocean in the sense that it sucks down CO2 and in its growth, and it reduces acidity in the oceans, and it only takes minerals from the oceans as a filter feeder, so it's not damaging marine life, and it's not picking up pollutants in the oceans. It's in my mind, the nexus of everything that we're doing and brings it all together. So although we call our businesses land, water, and food, we don't see them separately. We see them as one. And increasingly, as the vision is unfolding and we're able to bring in more interesting people and companies and connections, that vision's really coming together. And I think in some ways, Barnacles, although the smallest deal we've ever done, it's in a defining moment of how this fits together and fun that we're now, beginning to double down more at home in Southeast Alaska. So that's really all I wanted to say. I wanted to bring some color and perspective to some of the things we've been doing and talk a little bit behind, it's the inspiration and the dedication that's behind the results. And it's all about people, and I couldn't be more proud of them, especially in the last 5 months where they've done amazing things under incredibly difficult circumstances. So thank you to all of you for your continued support and interest and engagement, and thank you to all of them too. And back to you, Anthony.
Thank you, Terry. No, echo all the thanks to our employees and their partners who work so diligently through this time period. I'm going to go ahead and go back to the presentation. Just hit on one component that Terry mentioned. He said these are not, unique business units that stand by themselves. We know, living here in Southeast, that our land, our food, and our water is all interconnected. Our carbon project may have been done within our land business, but it matters to water. It matters to our food. Terry mentioned Barnacle, a food business that matters to water. And he mentioned the fact that all we do in environmental services and marine services and all that we want to build to in terms of protecting ocean health, that just protects the critical resources, the resources we care about, our food here in Southeast, and food that, as he mentioned, we want to share more broadly throughout the world as a very healthy, high quality protein source. So they're very interconnected. Our businesses work well together. We have more to do to make that happen, but it's an intertwined vision that again gives a roadmap for a long-term future for Sealaska. You know, we've walked through so much of this. We're very excited about our carbon program. It's going to bring more than $100 million in income into Sealaska over about a 5-year time period. It's a great result. We've talked about that. There's stories out there. Please learn more. Have gotten a lot of positive attention. It was our first very big step forward in terms of having something that we could say we are taking a step to address climate change, address ocean health. It's still ongoing. We have people working within our climate, in our carbon program administration. And when we think about Southeast, we know what tourism is in Southeast. We know why people come here. It is connected to land, food, and water. People come to Southeast because it's beautiful, it's pristine, it's wild. We have wildlife that is unique and very visible and open to tourists. They come because of our culture, our communities, and we see the potential for tourism to be tied into land, food, and water. We haven't made an investment yet. We're still looking at it, but we believe it can fit, and we want tourism to work for our communities. We know economic development is short in opportunity for our communities. This is one that we believe can be beneficial. Terry talked about our food business. We continue to build the water business. He mentioned CS Marine. And he mentioned our values. And these values, they started with those core values that Sealaska Heritage Institute had, our Council of Traditional Scholars. The same Council of Traditional Scholars that has been maintained over the last 40 years to continue to give us the wisdom and guidance that those at the Because We Cherish You moment 40 years ago gave us. We've worked with culture bearers, and we've defined values that, again, we believe work for Sealaska. One is extremely obvious, working together. We know the power of working together. We know we can make better decisions if we're working together. We know we need, when you put forward a vision like ocean health, how are you going to solve ocean health? How are you going to solve the issues of underperformance and education of our youth without curiosity, without caring about that long-term vision? And with curiosity and working together, finding new innovative solutions to the problems that will make progress in aspirational visions that I believe we're not going to solve tomorrow, but we may be able to solve over a 100-year time period. And we're dedicated to utilizing these values to make steady progress. And I haven't gotten into the just how important, you can say you're working as a team, but if you bring your own bias and you bring your own self-interest into that team environment, and you start advocating for decisions that are based on your bias and self-interest, teams don't work. You have to live by truth. You have to live by honesty. You can have your own biases and self-interest, but recognize them. And we've gotten better at this. No one's ever going to be perfect, but we know that this is one step. This is one way that Sealaska will make better decisions for many, many years to live in truth and honesty. I'll move on because we're going to have the opportunity within our 100-year plan that we're going to be rolling out to continue to talk about how important the core values are to us and how we want those to live with us within a 100-year plan that we never forget. And we want to get better at using those core values to create value for Sealaska. Right now, we've taken a full turn on what we call kind of our flywheel, a wheel that if we get going, if we create momentum, it just gets easier for us, and we go around this circle and just create quicker and greater progress and success. It starts with people, it starts with our employees, It starts with partners who understand our values and we attract to be a part of Sealaska. It starts with curiosity and a big vision that drives people to think critically and put forth solutions and problem solve. And through that process, your knowledge base grows and you're just around to doing it all over again. And again, this will work for 100 years. This is what's going to make progress for us. And why? Why do we want to create that progress? We know we want our youth to have the best future they can. We want our youth to have pride and respect within themselves. We want them to know that they can reach their full potential. We want them to know they can be leaders. I want them to know that they can improve the status of their communities and their families and their own lives through education and investing in themselves. And we want this cycle, which we know once this cycle gets going, it's going to improve the lives of us today and our grandchildren tomorrow. This is the core of our 100-year plan. Again, we continue to put the financial performance up there just as a moment in time indicator of what we are doing is working. Our shareholder voice, and this is the transition to the next opportunity. I cannot stand up and give you the emotion and passion of our shareholder voice as well as our shareholders and those that are working in important areas. The very first action we took with our current financial success was to add $10 million to our scholarship endowment because that was the number one priority of our shareholders. The number two priority, language preservation, language revitalization, supporting the language learners, our culture bearers, our remaining speakers, was the second highest priority of our shareholders, way above dividends and other areas of importance. And to reflect that, Director Nelson, Chair Nelson already mentioned that we stood up this $10 million language revitalization fund, but you don't know the importance of our languages until you hear from someone that's learning it, that's on our land, that will never give up in creating progress to bring our languages to the forefront and show the power that they can instill in all of us as Native people. And I'll ask Joe to introduce one of our next speakers here and go into the next part of our presentation. And I thank you all for the opportunity to speak with you. I'll be up here again. We'll be providing more information, more messaging, more transparency about what we have. But right now we got to get on to a very heartfelt, important part of this presentation that I'm very excited to see. Gunakshish, thank you.
Gunakshish, Anthony. Like you said, he'll be back. We'll have more conversation about our business and the excitement that we're in this moment as far as the company historically. But as with anything, life is complex, and there are some things that are certain, and some things that are certain is that life will go on, and life has a cycle. The language effort here is at a critical moment, and I know it gets redundant for folks to hear about the critical moment, but this urgency, it can't be underscored any more clearly than this moment right now. And I'm happy to make this introduction because it is personal to me. The EAC language, we said goodbye to the EAC language in our lifetimes. We said goodbye to the EAC language in my household. And that wasn't fun. There's not a badge of honor there. There's a scar there. And it's a scar that is that's real, that we need to share with the world. And we're not willing to do that again with the three core languages we're talking about now, with Tlingit, Haida, and Tsimshian languages, the Tlingit and the Khatkil and the Shmalgik. And but as we do this work, we are very, very acknowledging of the healing that needs to happen at the same time. These languages were not given away. They were taken away. They were scrubbed away. They were beaten away. And there's a lot of pain that goes along with this work. But, you know, that's you heal. You heal along the way. You either wither and start withering away and fade, or you learn how to heal. And we're doing our best to try to heal as we're doing this work. So this is one of those moments that we have a competitive advantage as a people, because as Native people, we've got structures in place, we've got communities in place, we embrace our collective identity when people pass. That is a strength. We don't say goodbye quietly and individually, just, you know, move on. We are a collectivist people. And this moment here, we are offering and extending our strength, our hearts, our healing energy, and the best of ourselves to the community of Metlakatla, to Davy, and to the language folks that just within the last few days said goodbye to one of their precious teachers. So we're holding them up in this moment and asking you, all of you that are watching, for your best to help. Because we're not going to save these languages by ourselves. We're going to save these languages by stepping up and standing together better. I'm not here to talk at the folks in Metlakatla leading this. I'm standing up here to give them a megaphone, to give them a mountain, to give them a platform. So with that, that is your transition, Davey. Thank you. I thank you for your work.
I should know Joe. I should know Anthony. Well, I know you the mascot at Washington Shagion. Gibam lacha di wayu. Lach gibudi ego. So machlachata di will wat go at a gua di will zago. Skoga ya gwadi na guadu. Lach skiet gibt echt. Liz Francis wadi noyu. Lugieka gagordum. Gjaun. Da afgediptem die skaksenske simgit haselse. De moordke na de algerum. Thank you, Joe and Anthony, for asking us to be here today. My name is Kibam Lacha, David Robert Boxley. I'm from Metlakatla, Alaska. Belong to the Wolf Clan. My father is David Boxley. My mother is Elizabeth Francis. I'd like to thank the other two members of the Hike Foundation, Hook Iniitska Ski, Gavin Hudson, and Mangepshigip Ag, Candy McGilton, who are here in the room with me and will shout at me, I'm sure, if I forget to say something. We decided to agree to join you all today, despite what's going on in our community, because of a promise we made to our teacher that we would never ever stop this effort to save our language. And that extends to our advocacy and support of saving Khatkil and Tlingit as well. Starting with that, I would like to offer some Algic lesson to all listening. Toyach shoot nursum is how you say thank you all. Toyach shoot nursum. I appreciate everyone's effort in using some Algic when they speak. And if that's the only word that you do learn, one more time. Toyach shoot nursum. Well. We have come here today to talk about the urgency and the urgency of saving our languages now. while we still have the wealth of knowledge available from our fluent speakers. As we stated when we lobbied the legislature, and as I'll say to all of you now, we are still in an emergency. Success of a language program, of saving a language, means that we create more fluent speakers than we lose. And right now, we cannot say that we are succeeding. And that's something that is hard for everyone to hear, because so many of us are working so hard. I suppose that because of our situation, it is easier for me to talk about the reality of these things that sometimes we don't want to acknowledge. We need to create new young adult fluent speakers now to fill the gap and to ensure that one day that we cannot avoid, when all of the first language speakers are gone, we cannot leave it to mid-range learners to save our languages. Not only is that not fair, it won't work. We have to create new fluent speakers. That leads me into Sealaska's commitment, their $10 million commitment, which I am terribly grateful for. It is an investment, a long-term investment to our very identities. To be Tsimshian, to be Khadalas, to be Tlingit, comes from those languages. Our cultures are nearly identical. It's our languages that make us unique. It's our languages that help us to describe our particular view on the world as Tlingit, as Khada, as Tsimshian. And if we lose those languages, we will still obviously exist as living human beings, but we will have lost the very thing that makes us who we are. We can't allow that to happen. As I said, this investment is a long-term investment. And to those who have the purse strings to not just Sealaska, but every organization that is involved with language revitalization, deliverables and the checklist on a grant are not what's going to save our languages. And the immediacy of an investment is not going to be available in this case. We have to plan and push so that we can increase our capacity to be able to teach the next generation. The elders we have now are not capable, just because of their age, to run around after 3 and 4-year-olds. And nor should we expect that of them. That should be my generation and the one coming up. But in order for that to work, we have to be fluent. In order to create a new generation of speakers, we have to be fluent in order to immerse the next generation. That is the biggest challenge that I can tell you from trying to become fluent in my language, that it is nearly impossible anymore to be immersed. That is an enormous challenge. You know, were I to move to Italy, I could be speaking Italian in 6 months because it's everywhere. You don't have a choice. We have to manufacture immersion. When I was born, there were 150 fluent speakers in Metlakatla. When I moved home 5 years ago to do this work, there were 6. Today, there are 2. And this is happening to all of us, not just here in Metlakatla. So I call on everyone that can hear my voice today, not just Sealaska, that we must commit to the goal of increasing capacity, that we focus and put a focus and a priority on creating new adult fluent speakers so that the language won't be at risk in 5 or 10 years, that we'll have another 50 years of fluent speakers who can help to teach the next generation. I want to take a minute and thank everyone who is doing this work, who have already put in the time, very often for very little or no compensation at all, because we understand the importance and the long-term need that our people have of having our identity that comes through our language. All of the programs, everything that we do every day, whether it's corporations, tribes, nonprofits, schools, your own businesses, in your own homes, every minute is an opportunity to use your language. We are often, as language learners, recognized for the work we're doing. But there is a disconnect, a separation between the majority of our people and language learners. I also want to encourage all of us to work to break down that barrier. We should all be language learners. We should all be advocates for our language. It belongs to each and every one of us, even though it was ripped from our grandparents' mouths. It is our right and our responsibility to take it back. I will say that right now, in the state we're in, it is a heartbreaking challenge to do what we're doing. Not only is the work itself difficult, the lateral oppression and violence caused by the collective historical trauma that our people suffered causes us to sometimes be our own worst enemies, and we tear each other down. We have to be aware that when we feel like attacking someone, maybe that is our own heart wishing we were doing something ourselves. Sealaska investing in our languages will help a bit to remove some of the obstacles that us language learners have to face. One of them that I want to encourage, and I'm speaking directly to the board of directors right now. We so often are restricted by what grants allow us to use funding for. I ask you and any other organization that channels money toward language revitalization, do all you can to limit the amount of restrictions placed on learners. It's getting to a point now where all 3 languages are going to need to travel back and forth to Canada to access speakers, or nowadays use technology like this. Sometimes the deliverables that are required in a grant get in our way from doing what we know we need to do. And I want you to be conscious of that as these funding opportunities move forward, that you listen to those of us on the ground. And I am confident that I can speak for the other language learners from the Chadkil movement and Tlingit, that we know what we got to do, and we just need your support to do it. It is the best thing I ever did with my life, to move back to Metlakatla and work to become fluent in my language. To spend the last 5 years with my teacher was a blessing. And I know that Candy and Gavin feel the same way. I am terribly appreciative of Sealaska for having listened to what it is that we need, that they're committing this money. And before I finish what I have to say, again, I send a message out to everyone who is involved in any way with being able to influence the future of our peoples. We have to work together. It doesn't matter if it's Sealaska or Tlingit and Haida or some nonprofit or whatever. It doesn't matter. Our languages are more important than all of those modern organizations. They're more important. Matter of fact, from my point of view, there is nothing more important that any of us can do than to ensure the survival and use of our languages back to everyday life. And if that means we all have to become fluent in each other's languages too, so be it. I am happy to be with you today. I am happy to support all of the people fighting for our languages. I am honored that the Hike Foundation was asked to be the representative for this issue today. It means the world to me and Gavin and Candy that our work has helped cause what Sealaska is trying to do. And I'll go back to what I started with. Na eskenu kulero denasualaimsku. I made one promise to my teacher. Aska dimdi skaksinski. I'm never going to give up. And I hope all of you take the opportunity to learn every bit you can. And those of you who can support making sure, again, the number one goal of creating new adult fluent speakers while there's still time. I thank you so very much. Thank you all for listening to what I have to say.
Powerful, Davey. Doyek Newsom. Gunaschish. Doing maybe we got to call it the Simshian pause instead of the Tlingit pause. Because we're also quietly applauding while we're embracing that message. I mention regularly that we're a collectivist people, so we focus on the group identity and not so much the individual identity. That's our competitive advantage, our strength. We need to continue doing that. But we're also a holistic people in the sense that we don't compartmentalize all the disciplines and we don't compartmentalize learning in different academic segments and become experts in one little thing. It all works together because it's all connected. We have an advantage because we focus on relationships. And to the degree that we don't speak our own languages, we're not whole people, but we're striving to become whole people again. So we need you in this work. We need you in this moment. We need all of us to do this type of work. And I know there's some debate out there on these things and challenges with the healing that you speak to. But we can't learn unless we create a safe space to learn. And that means treating each other with respect where it's like a broken record, but you need to embrace it and think of different ways to understand it and internalize it. Respect starts with respecting yourself and having a confidence and a comfort in who you are as a person. Then you're able to extend that respect to others and create a safe space. People can't learn if you're defensive. People can't learn if they're full of shame in the moment. So it's definitely challenging work, but we're up to the challenge, and we need more of you. In Heidelberg, they're celebrating the grand opening of a safe space for their learning the language. One of my proud moments just in this seat was when the boards approved this language fund at the end of last year, and we're looking to keep it going. And we're all going to keep working together. So, sheesh, thank you, Davey. Thank you to the community. And we're going to do our best to heed your advice and all focus on becoming learners. Sheesh. And we're offering our condolences. It was your teacher, your beloved teacher, Susan or Sarah Booth, who we know. Our elders, when they're comfortable with who they are, their love just emanates, and she's living on through you right now. So we thank you for heeding the call. I'm going to ask for help right now and make the transition, and I've got the team gathering. We've got question and answers, and then we've got some other business to take care of, and we're getting close. We know we're coming down to the home stretch. I want to thank everybody for staying connected virtually here. Zoom fatigue is real. So I'm going to go ahead and ask for help on the stage here as we transition to the question and answer. But going to sheesh Davey.
As Chair Nelson noted, we're about half hour behind schedule, so but we do have 7 questions here that we're going to answer that we think will be helpful for shareholders. We also encourage you to look online, because several questions that were not answered directly at the community meeting are now posted on the My Sealaska page. So that being said, that was a meeting that was held on May 20th, so hopefully you can find it on there. Question number 1. What protocol does the board follow in the selection of candidates that they support for the slate? Also, why send out so much mail-outs on their behalf? They should have to pay for their own campaign costs, just as the independents have. I understand the question, and it's a good one. One thing I will say is that in the past, we didn't have really a process for board evaluation. And so now what we have each year is we have basically a peer evaluation followed by a secret ballot instead of what was normally really a rubber stamp. If you wanted to rerun, you just put your name in and there was no questions asked, you were automatically going to be on the slate. And so now what we do is we have the secret ballot, and if you don't get at least 7 votes, then you are not going to be allowed to be on the slate that year. You can still run as an independent, however. And then we follow that with, through the governance committee, a solicitation for anybody, any shareholder who wants to run can put their name in for the process that we have for selecting whoever will be serving on the slate, who will be running on the slate with the other incumbents. And so in this case, this year, we had Angela Michaud and Lisa Lang and Michael Roberts join Morgan Howard on our board endorsed slate this year. So once we have the solicitation, the group that is comprised of about 5 people or 6 people on the governance board or the governance committee goes through and evaluates every one of the candidates based on I think there's about 16 criteria that are very important in what we consider would be an effective board member. It's a very rigorous process. And so then we do a blind ranking where the governance committee actually ranks each individual, and it's done through a Survey Monkey process where none of us know how we ranked any other individual. We only know how we ranked the individuals ourselves. And that way we don't have any groupthink, we don't have any, someone pushing for a candidate that they like. So we try really hard to make it very independent and we also include extra points for people that we think have skills that we lack on the board. So it's a very rigorous process. I think anyone who has been through it would agree with that. And then once we narrow the list down to the top 3 or 4, they are interviewed by the full board, and then the full board selects whomever they feel is best suited to serve on the board on the slate that year. And I just want to reiterate that the board has the fiduciary obligation to ensure that there are well-qualified shareholders to serve on the board. We need to remain a going concern. We need to make sure that we have people who have good business background and many other kinds of skills that are very desirable for a team. And then to answer why we spend money on campaign costs for the independents, it's because of the fact that they have endured and proven their value to the Sealaska board and that they were selected. I know that that's not going to be a happy answer that everybody wants to hear, but I want to reiterate that any shareholder can put their name in to go through that process. And so in that respect, it is fair. And Jaylene wants to add something.
I just want to add in terms of the expenses that this was an unusual year because of COVID, because of the lack of community meetings, that we weren't able to get our candidates, the endorsed candidates that were supported by the board, out in front of our communities, our shareholders. So that's why there was sort of a bigger influx than usual of mailings to our shareholders. We apologize for that, but it was the best that we could do to make sure that you learned about these very qualified candidates. As Jody said, they went through a rigorous process, and we wanted to make sure our shareholders learned about them. We also did ensure that we had videos available during the community meeting and also on My Sealaska for all shareholders to see all of the candidates. So we did have a different type of year this year, so we do apologize for the many mailings, but we did want to make sure you learned about the candidates. Thank you.
Thank you, Jaylene. That was a good point, for sure. Okay, question number 2. What is the non-disclosure agreement that you have newly elected board members sign? And what conversations may they have once signed with the shareholders who have elected them without breaking this NDA or non-disclosure agreement? First of all, that's a really good question. I'm glad whoever asked it. We do not have a non-disclosure agreement. What we have is a code of ethics. And like any board, there are several things that are, several rules that are in place for any board, and one of them especially is to keep confidential information confidential. And you can understand why that is very important. When we have an executive session, if we are not able to talk freely, we won't be able to have the hard conversations that are very necessary for us to get past. And so people should be able to feel free to say what they want to say or what they feel is in the best interest of the company. But the code of ethics itself is really just to ensure that each of our board members acts in the best interest of the entire company and not just for themselves. So it's very important, as I'm sure you can imagine. We can't have someone going out there and speaking on behalf of the corporation when they really have no right to, because the corporation, the board of directors is a body that works as one. And so that's why it's necessary to have a code of ethics, but it's not a non-disclosure agreement.
Sorry, I just want to add one more thing as well. We do have the code of ethics, but all board members for any organization are subject to fiduciary responsibilities. And this is a state law, and just general business requirement is that you abide by these fiduciary responsibilities, which include a duty of loyalty and a duty of care. So those just cover your service regardless of any code of ethics or any other requirements at the corporation that you serve at. So I just wanted to point that out in addition to the code of ethics.
Thank you, Jaylene. Okay, question number 3. Sealaska typically holds a first tree ceremony to mark the beginning of the timber harvest season. Did this ceremony happen in 2020? And no, I don't believe it did. The board composition has changed dramatically since this controversial ceremony was instituted. Will it be held in 2020 or 2021? And I agree, yes, there are a lot of new board members, and all I can say is that we will be discussing this at a future board meeting. Go ahead.
And I believe I'm on the mic. I mean, to call it controversial is, I don't know where that comes from. It makes me proud that we're able to honor the first tree and respect that while we are in the timber harvesting business, we do it in a manner that fits our cultural values. We do it under environmental stewardship, and that we can never forget what that tree has given us, whether it's money for scholarships, whether it's a job, whether it's income that increases our dividends. We reflect that in the first tree ceremony. We thank the trees for what they give us. And I think that is wholly tied into who we are as a corporation, as a people, and our values. And any controversy may come from just not understanding exactly why we hold that particular ceremony, and it gives us a chance to be on our land and reflect our honor and respect of our forests. Thank you.
Yeah, and one more thing on that. Yes, it's true that we do harvest timber. However, I was very proud to see when I came on the board that we also practice silviculture, which is replanting of the trees that we have harvested. And then thinning, pre-commercial thinning also occurs to make sure that the trees have the best chance of surviving and growing tall, and at some point, maybe in the future, we'll be able to harvest again. And we've also found that trees, as they are growing, actually take more carbon out of the air than they do when they're mature. So these are all things that make me proud of the way we do our harvest. Okay, the next question is, Sealaska is expanding their presence in the seafood industry. Will you be using that as leverage to help shareholders who commercially fish by offering new markets for their fish or loans for boats or otherwise supporting local fishermen? And I'm going to give that one to Anthony.
I think long term, all of that comes into play. The seafood platform is new to us. We want to get it right. We bought 3 companies in fairly quick order. We're focused on value add, high quality seafood that increases the, let's call it, preciousness of wild Alaskan seafood. And we want what we're doing on the high quality value add side to flow back to our fishermen, the ones that are making the catches in Alaska, and the ones that are doing the heavy lift to get such a great product to so many We work with a lot of partners. We've had conversations around that. We know we can do more in terms of loans. Spruce Root offers commercial loans. They have given a number of loans to shareholders, so we do offer loans to commercial fishermen, and Spruce Root would be the entity that you would have conversations with. And we look for more ideas and conversations as we grow our platform, get more comfortable that we are building something long-term and sustainable and stable, that we can bring any success we have on the seafood side back to local communities. Thank you for the question.
Thank you for your help with that one, Anthony. I knew that you would know more than I do, although I do know the goals. Okay, the next one, number 5. Sealaska supported the Alaska exemption for the roadless rule. Numerous Southeast Alaska tribes opposed the exemption or wanted a more nuanced approach where tribes could have input on logging near their communities. Your rebranding effort acknowledges Sealaska is perceived as a timber corporation. How will you support tribes who are concerned about the impact of clear-cutting near communities? Will you carry their message to DC and use your access to the Alaska congressional delegation? And many of you know, if you know me, know that I work for Inside Passage Electric Cooperative as its CEO. And I was, of course, I understand some of the reasoning why people didn't support didn't want the removal of the roadless rule. However, it has been a serious obstacle to energy development in Southeast Alaska. If you can't access a hydro source, for instance, then it's very difficult to bring lower cost power to a community. So, but I will let Jaylene answer more of that question.
Thank you for the question. And I know it was a big concern for many communities and shareholders that Sealaska did support the full exemption or a modified rule to allow more access and more opportunities for economic development, training, and other opportunities in Southeast Alaska. I will say we did support an exemption in that modified rule because of our in-depth understanding of all the protections that are in place in Southeast Alaska beyond the roadless rule. There are significant layers of protection throughout our region, and the roadless is just one of them. So removing that one layer of protection doesn't remove all the other layers of protection that are already in place. The exemption would have resulted in only an additional 168,000 acres of land available and added to the timber base on the Forest Service lands. So it was a very minimal addition of lands to the timber base, and also would have provided more economic opportunities in the region, because as you're aware, most of our region is owned by the federal government, and economic opportunities are then more difficult and hindered. I will say also that despite our support for an exemption and or a modified rule, we did have dialogue with the tribes. We did hear their concerns, and our final comments on the roadless rule to the Forest Service was that they ensure that by not having a blanket rule and using a more localized process for their timber activities, that localized process is meaningful, that they do ensure that they're talking to the local communities, they're talking to the local tribes, that they're making their decisions based on that local input. And so we did push for that, and that was supposed to be the goal of the Forest Service, and we just wanted to reaffirm that and make sure that they do follow that process to use local input and local concerns as they make their local decisions about timber activities. The rule is not yet final. They are in the process now of analyzing all of the comments that were submitted during the comment period, and the final rule should be submitted probably within the next month or so. And we will watch for that. And once it's finalized, if there is a full exemption, we will continue to do our part with the Forest Service and work with the tribes to ensure that local input is prioritized.
Yeah, I'd just really like to highlight the fact that working together is not always easy. It's not always supposed to be free of conflict. The tribes, because of the relationships that we are forming, we're free to come to us and say, I don't like your position, and this is why. And they heard us when we say, well, this is our position. Long term, we think economic development can be provided and the community can still have their say. At the end of the day, I think we changed. Sealaska had a long-term position, and we changed that, and we have taken that message that local control and the voice of our communities is the #1 thing that the Forest Service should be listening to. And we've taken that back to DC, as you mentioned. It's important to keep on going, and through these sorts of issues, our relationships grows. I thank every tribe that came to us and disagreed with us and helped us make a change for the better, and we will continue to do so. In fact, we at that moment in time promised all the local tribes that we would send them our position letters in advance. So it was a very positive change long term, and I think it's just an example of where we may have disagreed, but we have far more agreements than we do disagreements. And working together means you can get past disagreements and move on to working together. So Gunak Chish to all our local tribes.
Thank you, Anthony. Okay, we have 2 more questions, and we're going to wrap up this section. Okay, number 6. Hello, my only question, why have you failed your people/shareholders in providing further financial aid? There are some of us who have been denied unemployment and have never received a stimulus package. While I am thankful for the early April dividend, it's just not enough during these times. You know, I really don't know how to answer that question except to say that everything that Sealaska does is for the betterment of our people. And I am, I'm sorry that we weren't able to provide as much as is needed right now. I do know that these are really hard times for a lot of people and our people. And I just want to say that we're doing the best we can, and hopefully you will see that through future dividends. We did provide $1 million worth of aid to many charities that serve our people. And now I'm not sure what's going to happen with the CARES Act, but perhaps we will be able to do something in the future related to the CARES funding if it ever comes through to ANCSA corporations. Okay, on to the last one. I know we're getting down to the wire here. Number 7, I'm going to paraphrase this. It says, why don't we get help for burial and not just $150? We all know the cost of burial, and it's high. Sealaska passed the memorial fund, the Deshu Memorial Fund, at least a couple of years ago, and my recollection is that the amount that is paid per shareholder or per shareholder passing, I should say, the minimum is $250, and I believe it's based on number of shares. And then it goes up to 500, and then 750, and then 1,000, I believe, if I'm not correct. Okay. So I know it's never enough when it comes to burial and losing a loved one and all the travel and whatnot that has to go on. But I am very proud that we were able to give more now than we did, well, actually we didn't give anything not too long ago. So I'm very proud that we're able to provide some relief. And that will wrap up our Q&A. I want to thank you all for your questions. They're really good questions. I really appreciate that we're able to have this forum to answer them. And we didn't pick the easiest ones. There were easier ones for sure. But in keeping with trying to be as open and transparent as possible with our shareholders, if you ever have any other questions, feel free to call on us and ask us. I always encourage shareholders to call me personally if they have questions, and if I can't answer, I'll try to get them the answer. Okay, I'd now like to call on the chair of our Shareholder Relations Committee, Ms. Barbara Cadiente Nelson to complete our Board Youth Advisor transition. Oh, and before I say, I promised somebody I would say, Black Lives Matter. We've all been through racism. Anybody who is a person of color has experienced racism, including myself, and I'm sure most of us have. And so I just wanted to shout out to the protesters that we support you, and we need justice for our black and brown people. Thank you. Gunas Chish.
Thank you. Toyok shoot nershim, Gunas Chish, Hawa, Salamat Po. That was a very purposeful message. Thank you for that. This is the transition or a time in our agenda where we acknowledge the transition of our board youth rep to the new incoming board youth rep, and it's always bittersweet. It's difficult because we have such a short time. 1 year is way too short with each of them. I wanted to say, though, that with regard to our youth, it's the responsibility of who we are as directors to bring all shareholders along with us so that you can feel our progress and celebrate our progress. And in that is also our responsibility to bring our youth along. As an educator, and even as a business owner, I'm always humbled by our youth. They really bring you to the core of your life's purpose. In my capacity as an educator, I get to listen and watch our children grow. And there's not one child that I've ever met or will ever meet, none of our children, that are failures. And our elders speak to them like this. Kingisti, David Katzek, says to them every day, Anyat Kusani, noble, most precious children of the earth. And you could see it just wash over our children. He brought in as a guest Joe Williams, AMB Grand Cap president, and he looked at the children that were sitting in the gymnasium floor, about 65 of them, and their teachers. And Mr. Williams said to them, as he peered and bended toward them, he said, I'm looking at the future. You are our future. Every year we get to meet yet another element of our future, and we hug and cry a bit as we say so long and farewell, and we know you'll be back again to the one that's leaving us. But before we do that, I just wanted to go very briefly calling out the names of the board youth advisors who've served the board in a very meaningful way. In 2009, we had Megan Gregory. What I remember about Megan is she had such a passion about recycling, and she had a commitment to our youth, and I believe she was very instrumental on launching the Girls on the Run. She brought that to us, the value of looking at our resources and managing them to sustainability. In 2010, we had Barbara Blake. She came in with an experience and a passion for policy, and always putting at the forefront of her work and conversation our tribes. In 2011, we had Ralph Wolf. Ralph had such a passion for the community and also for family, and he went on to be the mayor of Yakutat. In 2012, we had Madeline Soboleff-Levy. She had a background in policy through law, a law degree. She had a passion for corporate governance and making sure that our policies were enacted to the letter. 2013, we had Alicia Guthrie. Alicia just was, she had this sense of leadership. She had a sense of a global citizenship and wanting to learn and travel. In 2014, we had Alyssa London. Alyssa was very focused on the sustainability of our resources, our art, and she brought us questions about how we're managing our forests and if we are really being leaders with integrity with regard to our forests. In 2015, we had Barbara Dude. Barbara had committed so much time volunteering to bring our youth along to know their language and their songs and their dances. In 2016, David Russell Jensen, he had the sustainability of who we are. You heard David Boxley talk about sustaining who we are through the language, and that's what David brought to us, embodied our tribal values in our work. 2018, Nicole George, she had such a passion about the sustainability of our ecosystems, and in particular, our water. In 2018, we had Aidan Helen. Aidan was, his gift to us was his humor, for sure, and corporate governance and policy focus. In 2019, ever so brief, we had Maka Montour Paki. She brought to us that global citizenship, that we live in one world, and that it's, as leaders, we carry that. These tears are tears that we're going to miss your voice with us, Maka. And yet there's also a hope in this voice, because we're bringing on a new board youth who also has this heart for our people and her learning of our culture and our history, and we're looking forward to what she brings. I ask that Maka Montour and the incoming board youth advisor be ready to speak shortly. I want to share with all of you out there, our youth and those who are parents and grandparents of our youth, that what you bring to us in the nurturing of your children are board youth leaders such as the ones that I mentioned. And we thank you as their parents, their aunties, their uncles, their grandparents, their community for nurturing them along. The board youth advisor position has a criteria that they be a descendant and have at least one voting share. We try to simplify the process. And again, the age requirement is 18 to about 26. Maybe it's 27. We ask that you write an essay. What is your commitment to your community, to your culture? What is your education? And submit your GPA. We look to at other factors, if you served in the military, and how you've served your community. And so we also look for your references. So please, I encourage you to apply for this position, because we need you. We need your voice in the boardroom. I've asked both Maka Montour and Michaela Demert to speak to what else is needed to ensure that our youth see their place in leadership, as well as their past or upcoming year as board youth advisor. And this is a very intimate question about what they see. Back in Ketchikan, when we visited there some 5 years ago, maybe a little bit more, I sat at the table of a young man who was very young, probably just graduating from high school. And I said, "Do you have any questions of me?" And he said, "How do you see me? How do you see me within this corporation? Where do I belong? What is my place?" That's the question that we have to ask each other. And so I'd like to ask Maka to speak first. Maka Montour served in the 2019-20 term. Her family roots are from Yakutat, and she is the grandchild of the late George Ramos and Elaine Abraham. And you heard her share earlier that she is also the grandchild of the late Olaf Abraham. She currently resides in Anchorage, where she dedicates her personal and professional time to environmental and social advocacy on behalf of Indigenous and non-Indigenous youth and women. Maka is a 2011 Gates Millennium Scholar and holds a Bachelor of Science in Applied Indigenous Studies with a minor in anthropology from Northern Arizona University. She's finishing up a master's degree in public health from the University of Alaska, Anchorage. She'll share her experience as a board youth rep and thoughts on youth leadership. Maka, please speak with us.
You made me choke up, so I'm glad I had a second to compose myself. My name is Makamuntur Paki. The last name given to me by my grandmother, Elaine Abraham, was Kitleerte. I am from Yakutat of the Gleneach and House of the Owl. I acknowledge I call in from Dunaina at the Baskin land here in Anchorage, and acknowledge my great-grandfather's people, my outer shell, the Teokloiti. I want to thank the opposites that have been uplifting the Gleneach Kwan as we catch our breath from the loss of Byron Malott. And I want to offer my love to the Sintian people who have lost Sarah Booth. I'm so sorry. Please let me know how I can support you. The House of the Owl supports you and we love you. A year ago, when I entered into this position, it felt like I was falling into a chasm. My maternal grandfather, Wichachluish George Ramos, walked into the forest the day I officially began service as the advisor. I remember that night, my mother, Judy Ramos, and my brother Kai Montour called me from the room where he was. And they asked me to say anything to him over a video. And I acknowledge and thank them for allowing me to have that space. Because I was away. I was in Seattle for the Sealaska meetings, so I wasn't able to be there. But his spirit has never left us, and he's lent us power, as well as his surviving children in this journey. And that's something I want to encourage everyone listening, is to know our ancestors never leave us. They are always in the room. They always guide us. And we can acknowledge their spirit and never forget to build a fire and put in some chocolate or their favorite tea or some dry fish when you can. I want to honor Ingoon and acknowledge some words by Cyril George. Cyril George has told a story about how our people sometimes shoot at our best. In the story, he talks about how a person had to run a gauntlet while his people shot arrows at him. And I've had this conversation on arrows before with different members of all of our three nations. We spoke of this and we've acknowledged how hard it can be, and we can acknowledge and witness the pressure of these positions and still acknowledge that our people shoot these arrows because they expect so much and they love our people and they do want the best. Sometimes it's as if we look up and we see the arrows raining down, coming down like a rainstorm. And sometimes they're wrapped in love, and sometimes they're wrapped with sharp-edged words cast from our own people's bows. And sometimes it happens to us, and sometimes we do it to each other. And I have experienced it, and I have shot them too in reaction. And I learned that behavior from watching our people. And I don't think we always did this. And I wonder when we started. Perhaps over the years, we became distracted by each other sometimes, and sometimes we can lose sight of why we have arrows in the first place, to protect and provide for our people. But we shoot arrows of love too, and that's our greatest power. I dream of a world where what we can create for our grandchildren, where if our arrows were always, always wrapped in love and and words of encouragement and bundles of arrows that were wrapped with so much patience and education when we get it wrong. And what if we all used our arrows and collectively used them to hunt for the best future we can provide for our children? I'm not a good hunter. I only went hunting for a sea otter once, and my grandfather put the gun in my hands and he was like, shoot that sea otter. And I looked at it and it was cracking clams on its belly. And I was like, I can't do it. And I remember looking at the sea otter and going about 10 yards to the left and like shooting in the water instead. And my grandfather just laughed at me. It takes courage to take those shots. And I think if we hunted for the best future with these arrows, we center that hunt at the front and the back and in the core of all of our hearts and our collective heart as people. Our people have so much more love than darkness, so much power and resilience and courage. We channel it in the right way. The most powerful thing we have, we must use it. Because we cherish our ancestors. And we cherish those to come. And I cherish you. Knilchish, Haua, Yoikshinushin.
Maka, on behalf of the board, I have the privilege of presenting you with this silver bracelet with a Sealaska logo on it by artist Doug Chilton. I hope when you wear this, you know that it's really a circle hook. We're not letting you go too far. So, Ganesh Chish, Toyaksam, Toyak Shoot, Nersham, Hawa Ganesh Chish, Ganesh Chish. Next, I'd like to call on Michaela Demmert. Michaela will serve as the 2020-21 Board Youth Advisor. Her family is from Klawock. She currently lives in Juneau with her family. Michaela is the daughter of Sarah and Travis Dibdahl. Michaela received a bachelor's degree from Dartmouth in anthropology and minored in Native American studies. She'll be attending the University of Washington in the fall to pursue a master's degree in social work. Here is Michaela to share her thoughts on the incoming term she will fulfill. Michaela, welcome.
It is good to see you all. Shinget na skohats yuchat duasalk. Yeh ayahat takwanadi nahatsati. Inya kwandach ayahat. Shangu Katie ka Blackfeet yadi ayahat. Kakusatan Dutchhan ayachat. Hello, my English name is Michaela Demmert. My Tlingit name is Skohats. I was named after the beautiful Catherine Rowan. I am Raven Bullhead from Klawock. I am grandchild of the Thunderbird. I am child of the Thunderbird and grandchild of the Man's Foot. I grew up in Juneau and was raised by Sarah and Travis Dibdahl. I am also Blackfeet. My father was James Williams from Browning, Montana. I wanted to take a minute to extend my introduction from earlier to acknowledge those who came before me and shaped me into the young woman I am. It is an honor to be here. Thank you for introducing me, Barbara, and Jahawa Maka for your words. I am thankful for your wisdom. Thank you for saying that our ancestors never leave us. I know grief can be heavy, but they are still here with us, and they carry us and they remind us that we are still resilient here in this life that we are in today. So I thank you. I thank you for holding me up in this transition. I remember when I was an intern for Sealaska a couple years ago, I had the honor of learning about Sealaska and their initiatives. It was inspiring to see community leaders among the board and the staff members think about how they can best serve their community and their shareholders. During this transition period, I had the privilege of meeting with the previous BYAs, and I had the honor to learn about their experiences. I know their words of wisdom and encouragement will only help guide me along this path as the 2020-2021 Board Youth Advisor. I aspire to learn what I can from our Sealaska leadership and empower the youth to have a voice in the discussions they are passionate about. I will be attending the University of Washington in the fall to receive my Master of Social Work. My goals are to become a licensed clinical social worker so that I can promote the incorporation of our culture and traditions into our health and well-being. We come from strong and resilient people. I am dedicated to fostering this resiliency and promoting community wellness for the benefits of our future generations. For any youth watching, I want to offer words of encouragement. Being a leader does not mean speaking to Sealaska shareholders on a Saturday afternoon. Being a leader is learning your language, harvesting berries or gumboots, taking care of your loved ones, dancing and singing loud and proud in front of your grandma, being a steward of the land, and so much more. Being a leader means I will be a good relative. Being a leader means I will be a good ancestor for the future, for those who come after me. As the Board Youth Advisor, I plan to uphold the youth voice the best way I can and speak to the well-being of our people and lands and help lengthen and widen the path for our future generations to follow. Ganeshish and Jahawa, thank you for having me today. I'm sending my love to everyone during this pandemic. Be strong and have courage. We will make it through this time of uncertainty together.
Maka, I hope that our youth are listening. I know that there are young ones that are including my grandchildren, whose noses and ears and little paws are close up to the television screen and computer screen and listening, and that they heard you. And Maka, I hope you dance. You enjoy, you deserve to enjoy your time away from us for now. I will now ask our Vice Chair to come and continue with our agenda. Thank you again for being with us.
Goodness Chish, Barbara, and goodness Chish, Maka, for your heartfelt words. I really think it's much needed today, so thank you so much. Okay, at this time, each year we set aside time to recognize our loved ones, family and friends that we have lost since the last time we gathered. Following this memorial, we will have the final election results. We have witnessed the passing of so many. We want to recognize a few key leaders, including former Sealaska directors Marge Young and Byron Malott. Sealaska President and CEO Anthony Malott would like to offer a few words about the impacts of Director Marge Young. So, Anthony will come to the podium.
Thank you, Jody. A lot's been said about Marge and her dedication to community, listening to shareholders, bringing community voice, understanding business, understanding the need for economic development within our communities. But I just want to offer a little reflection on why it was so obvious for the board to rename our permanent fund. It's the largest investment asset that Sealaska has. It's over $100 million. Sealaska built it up over time, and it was always meant to provide dividends in perpetuity for our shareholders. And Marge's voice was the loudest at the table, reminding people what that meant. That meant we are investing in our future. We are providing benefits far into the future. And she reminded people pretty pointedly that if you touch this permanent fund, you are taking away from future generations. That's how much she believed in Sealaska's ability to have a benefit for shareholders in perpetuity. And to name the Marjorie V. Young Permanent Fund after her and her dedication in maintaining the value that we need to help our shareholders now and far into the future. I thank Marge for her wisdom and her dedication to maintaining this fund for our shareholders. Gwynek Cheese, Marge, and family.
Next, we will show a video to commemorate those who we have lost this past year, followed by a video about the loss of our lost loved one, Byron Malott. Thank you.
Byron was one of those kind of figures. When I grew up, you always heard the names, and these were the big leaders, and Byron Malott was always one of those. I always think the analogy that some of our leaders were giants, and Byron was kind of one of those giants amongst giants.
Byron was an introvert at heart. I think we all knew that. But he was an observer, and he was always watching, and he was always looking at everybody around him and really witnessing what was taking shape and what was unfolding.
He was a thinker, a deep thinker. Byron was always looking to do good work in the moment. He was always very present, even if he wasn't with his mouth going. And when he spoke, he had something to say that actually moved people to take action, or to listen, or to do something about it.
It's one of the things I think Byron was so good at was being comfortable with people. Clearly in the big business setting, he served on Alaska Airlines board, ran Sealaska, lieutenant governor. He could sit with anybody in the country. But more importantly to me, being an Alaska Native from rural Alaska, is that he could sit with rural people he didn't know, rural Alaska Natives, and have that instant connection and make them feel comfortable and hear their issues and then take it back and do something with it.
When it came to economic development, fish and game, health and social services, all of these various different aspects of our daily lives that many take for granted, he knew they were important to our people. He knew that our people were most often at the bottom of the stick when it came to who was getting that service. And so he did his damnedest to make sure that our people were at the table. Just the passion and the fire he carried for our people, just you could feel it. It was amazing to watch. I didn't realize that leaders could be so impassioned and just in spur of the moment, just let it out and talk to each other in a way that demonstrated their heart. But realizing from that time that the most important leaders that I've witnessed in my life thus far have been those that let their hearts speak. And Byron was definitely one of those men.
Our communities deserve everything everybody else does. Whether you live in the smallest community or the largest city, all of our people deserve, the same treatment, and he demanded that. And he slammed his hands down like several times, and I was like, holy smokes. Boy, I can tell you, he had staffers kind of shaking, but he demanded that. He grew up in Yakutat, he'd been the mayor of Juneau, he had seen that disparity. Firsthand, he lived it. And so he demanded that. And to me, I remember sitting there as a Tlingit man, for the first time looking at a state of Alaska official, kind of demanding justice for us. I walked out on cloud 9. I left there just thinking, that's our lieutenant governor.
In a word, how would I describe Byron? I would say he was a trailblazer in everything he did. The Native Claims Settlement Act, everything, so many things in Washington, D.C., he was a part of for Alaska and for the Alaska Native people.
Raven. Byron was a major trickster. He loved to joke around, but he was also the creator of so many things. He created so many things and so many inroads for our people. He imbued his moiety very well.
Sometimes you can't see the forest for the trees, and I think Byron was able to see the forest and help others see that forest and see that, if we invest in our communities, we're going to prosper and we're going to do well for generations.
Courageous. That is one word that really sums him up. That's something that we all wish we had more of in tough moments, and Byron had no shortage of courage. He was overflowing.
Passion is the word to me that describes him the best. Passionate in all ways, about his friendships, about his family, about his beliefs, about his community, about the world, about the possibilities, just passion.
Byron saw the potential for what it would look like if Southeast was united. He saw the potential if all Alaska Natives were united. And even beyond that, with his relationships with the Native Hawaiians, with the Maoris, he understood the potential impact Indigenous people could have on this world if we were united. I think about that a lot. And I think about the commitment that he's made in his life. He gave his whole life to us. He gave 110% of who he was whenever he would sit in those positions to ensure that we all had what we needed to advance our people, to advance the voice of Alaska Native people in every setting. He only got a few years where he actually just got to relax and just be with his family. And we're forever grateful for the time that he gave to us, because he changed how the world sees Alaska Native people. It was because of him.
Thank you for the video and for watching and participating. This is one of our strengths that I always keep hammering on, and it's just this concept of us embracing each other, and this being a competitive advantage that we have, that we are a holistic people, that we hold each other up, and that we are better because of it. We have structures in place to do this, and as we watch this, there's probably not many business shareholder meetings in the normal world where they have this kind of thing happening. But as Native people with our clans and our organizational structures, it's part of our norm. This is where we do our business. We come together and have transactions, and we wrestle and with these things together. And on this here, it's in particular an extra shockwave in the election moment, in the cycle of community meetings that we are dealing with in real time. But that's just what we do. It happened in Heidelberg a few years ago that we had to acknowledge and work on a loss that was happening in Heidelberg when we were all there. And it's just a powerful thing to be one of you, really, in this moment to do that. I encourage folks to go ahead and gift stocks, gift some of your shares. We're one of the few regionals that, we are the only regional corporation that has a board youth advisor position. We are one of a half or so that opened our roles to the descendants. And that's just a Native thing to do. It's the right thing to do, to give and bring folks in and not wait till people pass before you distribute wealth, distribute knowledge, distribute things before it's too late. I did mention business. This is a business corporation. We do have a job to be profitable and to transact business. And it's the board that holds that fiduciary responsibility. As shareholders, we thank you. We had great turnout this year. I think it's 2/3 of our voting population turned out to vote. We have an inspector of elections that's been working with us for many years. And at this moment, I'm going to yield the floor to our inspector to give a report on the results of our meeting. So, Mr. Mesdag, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Sort of a tough thing to follow, but here I'll give my report. So, Mr. Chairman, as Inspector of Elections and Voting, I report the results for the election of 4 directors for a 3-year term ending at the Sealaska Annual Meeting of Shareholders in 2023. The following persons were duly nominated and by the vote of the shareholders received the following number of votes. The order is starting with the person receiving the most votes. Lisa Lang, 796,125 votes. Morgan Howard, 793,141 votes. Angela Mashad, 791,926 votes. Karen Togg, 788,133 votes. Vicky Stoboloff, 612,323 votes. Richard Beasley, 482,692 votes. Sydney Edenshaw, 396,273 votes. Michael Roberts, 239,056 votes. Kimberly Strong, 207,412 votes. Myrna Gardner, 188,947 votes. Monica Ortiz, 101,225 votes. Therefore, Lisa Lang, Morgan Howard, Angela Mashad, and Karen Togg, having received the 4 highest number of votes as represented by the stock of shareholders presented in person or by proxy at this meeting, are declared by me to be duly elected directors of the corporation to serve until the Sealaska annual meeting of shareholders to be held in 2023. With respect to the shareholder resolution to amend the bylaws to provide for term limits for directors, Alaska Statute 10.06.228 requires approval by a majority of the outstanding shares to pass. Therefore, 2,106,145 outstanding voting shares, of which a vote of 1,053,073 is required to pass. 819,754 shares, or 38.92% of the outstanding voting shares, were voted in favor of the resolution. Therefore, the resolution fails and was not adopted. This concludes the electors' report. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mark. I'd like to acknowledge the 4 candidates that received the highest number of votes: Lisa Lang, Morgan Howard, Angela Mashad, and Karen Togg. We welcome them to the board. They're going to serve their terms until 2023. And the term limit resolution we note has not passed. It has failed. Excuse me there. It's been not just a long day, but a long few months. And it is genuine and real and coming from my heart when I do say thank you to all the candidates who choose to stand up, to put on your, normally I'd say your running shoes and run, but I guess this year it was your thumbs and your fingers and your video cameras and your phones and the outreach. We're stronger when we are competitive, and then we come together. And now's that time to come together. The boards is going to meet per our bylaws after this meeting for a reorganization meeting, and it's just an exciting time at Sealaska to have such great voter turnout. This might be a first. As I do a quick scan here with the shape of the board and the moment in time, I guess the first being, I think the women, the females on the board have a majority of the board right now, and then that is something to truly celebrate. So congratulations, ladies. You know, we known as a Native people that you've always been running things anyway. So thanks for stepping up. At this moment, and I know we're getting close, we want to yield the floor to our Senator Kukesh to do some special recognitions here. Senator Kukesh, I hope you're still on and still with us. We're going to connect with you on video here.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time. Can you hear me okay? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. I want the video to pan on the staff. They're going to be holding up these next few items that we have to present. I want to start first with David Goad. We have 3 directors who are leaving the board this year, and it's a huge number for leaving the board. But I want to start off with David Goad. David Goad was selected to fulfill a seat. Ross Sobloff, our director, cousin, friend, passed away while he was in office as a Sealaska director, and David Goad was selected by the board to fill his seat. He chose, after he was selected to fill the seat, he chose not to run for re-election to that particular seat. He is retiring from the Housing Authority in Sitka. He's retiring as a Sealaska board member. He has a new grandchild, and he really wants to be able to actually retire. How many of us really wish we could do that? And this gentleman is going to do it. He's going to retire, and he's going to spend time with his grandchildren and his family. All of the Sealaska Board of Directors, all of the staff at Sealaska, and all of the shareholders at Sealaska owe this gentleman a debt for stepping in to fulfill Ross Sobolov's seat. Thank you, David, on behalf of Sealaska's director, its board chairman, its shareholders, and the staff at Sealaska for your contribution to Sealaska. We really appreciate it. And Jaylene is holding up a gift. It's a Tana done by Doug Chilton. It's got the Sealaska logo on it, and may you wear it with pride. The next person we're going to recognize is Sidney Edenshaw. Sidney Edenshaw was elected to the board in 2005. He served 15 years as a member of the board. He's from Heidelberg. He lives in Heidelberg. Sid has had the honor to be the president of the tribe, been elected as president of the tribe. Sid is one of 3 captains who own and run seine boats in Heidelberg. Matthew Carl, who we all know, John Carl, his son, and Sidney Edenshaw. Sidney is a captain of the Geraldine. He served 15 years with Sealaska, and Sid Edenshaw is one of those people that is very quiet, and when he has something to say, everybody listens, and we all did. The board of directors, its chairman, Sealaska shareholders, and Sealaska staff would like to take the opportunity to thank Sid Edenshaw for his contribution to Sealaska. We love you, Sid, and we thank you for all the work that you've done. Every shareholder is grateful for all the contributions you've made during your years there. And there's a lot of things you could point to as a contributor that Sealaska has done in the 15 years you're there. And thank you for all of your time. Jaylene is holding up a Tana that was done by Doug Chilton. It's a silver Tana with a Sealaska logo on it. The bead work was done by Donald Gregory. We hope you enjoy wearing this over the years, and thank you for your time and effort. Finally, the board of directors would like to recognize Edward Thomas. Edward Thomas was elected in 1993. He served 27 years on the board of directors. His longevity at Sealaska is matched only by his longevity at Clinton Haida Central Council, where he was a president for almost that many years. Ed has been a contributor not only to Sealaska, but to the tribe and to Alaska Natives in general, including his work at National Congress of American Indians and his work as a parliamentarian through many, many, many years of work in the Native community. We really appreciate Ed because on the board, he was one of those people that really did his homework. He believed in Sealaska. He spent a lot of time reading the material, and he always had good questions. Sometimes they were tough, and sometimes there were questions that had to be asked, and he asked them, was not afraid to do that. On behalf of Sealaska's board of directors, on behalf of Sealaska chairman of the board, Sealaska's staff, who and many of them who are really appreciative of you, Ed, and Sealaska's shareholders, we want to thank you for your many, many years of contributed work to Sealaska Corporation on behalf of all of us. Thank you very, very much. Clarence Jackson used to say, "Good sheesh," and that was a speech all by itself. It seems like even that's not enough to thank Ed Thomas and Sid Edenshaw and David Goad today. But on behalf of Sealaska, thank all 3 of you. May you, as I think the Irish say, may the road reach up to meet you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jaylene. Thank you, Albert. Normally, we'd be having door prizes, the other long-anticipated moment in a lot of our meetings. This time, my understanding, I think we've got webcast winners that we're going to put on the screen. Annual meeting prize winners, okay. So these are for folks who voted, and I'm if we're comfortable, I'm just gonna, should I read them all off or just we can forego the reading and you can all see that. I wanna congratulate and thank all of the participants who vote and vote early. This year, some folks might have noticed there was voting early and then voting often. an act of discretionary voting at the end of the last couple weeks here showed that, our independents actually got a sense of what teamwork means and how to do that. So congratulations to all the participants who got a door prize, an annual meeting prize, and then to the candidates. We really do respect and appreciate and are thankful the great caliber of shareholders that we have participating and running and serving. We're at that point where we're going to wind down, and I'm going to ask Barbara Cadiente Nelson to start making her way up to offer a closing prayer. I'm also going to ask her to adjourn the meeting. So I'll just yield the chair to her so she can adjourn the meeting and offer some closing comments as well. These are incredible times, and we know there's nothing more healing than a hug. If you can picture our meetings, we are people that do hug. And there's just that moment of the hug is such a powerful thing. And I'm trying to leave that impression with you now, and that feeling and the chemistry in your brain that's actually happening when you actually think of a moment like that. We're really trying to reach out to give virtual hugs. By you tuning in and sticking around this long, you are virtually hugging us, and we're feeling it, and we're trying to reciprocate and embrace it. None of us are going to be here forever. Our humanity and our lives and what we do is always just right in front of us in reality. So that's why it's awesome, and that's why when you embrace our names and Tlingit and Hodkill and all, the definition is always real people. For most of our indigenous people, what they call themselves, that actual name means real people. And we're striving to be more real every day. So I just want to say from me to you, Gunashish, I'm only here for a fleeting moment, and I appreciate all of you for participating. I'm going to yield the chairmanship to Barbara to close the meeting with a prayer and to go ahead and close the meeting. Be healthy, be safe, take care of each other, take care of yourselves so that you can take care of each other. Gunashish.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just a note, housekeeping note, directors, we'll have a meeting right after the closure of this one, so please stand by your phones for the call. We call upon the ancients to stand with us right now, to be with us. Dikian Kau, Creator above, you created us in your image and your likeness. That which you created you will not turn away from, so we humbly come before you and boldly to ask for the gift of grace, the gift of faith, the gift of hope and endurance in these times when our lives have been touched by the COVID-19 pandemic, by life itself. Be with those who are sorrowing right now. Be with our most vulnerable, our children and our elders. Be with their care providers. Bless Sealaska's leadership with wisdom and courage and vision. We ask for your favor and growing confidence as we walk in the path of our ancestors. Bless our children. Bless our oceans, our rivers, our forests, our land, our languages, that we will continue to sustain us ourselves for the next hundreds of years. Amen. And Mr. Chair, I hear no objection to closing, so the meeting is adjourned. Thank you for being with us. Ganesh Chish.